let's record. Hi, I'm Melissa Bunch.
I'm Paul Bunch.
Welcome to Spirit Code.
I'm
I'm trying not to smile because I'm getting food on my teeth.
That's a great way to start this class.
Okay. So we've had a couple of different comments about what they would like to learn about today. And the very most recent one that's going to be kind of quick and basic, how do you diagnose? We can't diagnose. We cannot diagnose. That's going to be a really important thing to kind of take care.
Well, I mean, like, okay, you can say, all right, you have a 2D energy. Well, how did you know that?
Okay, so you're muscle testing, right? Okay.
Well, I'm not muscle testing this moment, but that's what I'm trying to figure out. How do you know? Okay, why do I have a pain in my back today on the right side? Yeah. You know.
Okay, so let's cover some things first. So basically symptoms. What we're identifying is symptoms. So my back hurts, or my skin is all rashed up, or whatever the problem might be. My hearing is ringing.
I had a spiritual attack last night.
So how do we begin with this?
Nick, what do we do first?
Yeah, so first we start with the prayer.
Thank you. Let's do that.
And we invite the inspiration that we receive through God to direct us. And so that's a really good start.
Let's do it.
I'll say it. Our dear Father in heaven, we thank thee for all the blessings that you pour down upon us. And we thank thee for thy presence and being always ready to assist us. And we thank thee for thy love and energy and strength that helps us through each day and helps us to overcome our struggles and to be a beacon of light to us, so that we may be able to follow the path and identify the thorns upon that path that we can avoid. And we ask thee that we may be able to assist those that are listening and are ready to learn. And we say this in thy Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I have a couple of quick things to say that came to me during the prayer. I just want to let everybody know we're going to talk a little bit about last day stuff as a comment. We'll have a question and answer portion. We are going to discuss a little bit about energies today, and we can also talk about like how to troubleshoot and diagnose what exactly is happening. Not diagnosing an illness, but diagnosing what's going on and what needs to be done. But I would like to kind of mention to some of you, because I never know how many newbies we have watching each time, is that this program is going to be a little bit different than what you may expect. This is not, I know that a lot of the different programs that are out there, you have to watch certain videos in a certain order and you have to pass them in order to progress, in order to be able to, be a practitioner. Right. Exactly. And that some of them have a timeline too. Some of them you have to complete this in 3 months, you have to complete this in 6 months. And then you have to go through like an interview, and like, it's kind of, it's hoops that you have to jump through. But we don't do that. We have a self-study program. This is very much like on the website. If you go to the program, and we can show you where that is really quick. If you go to the program, please tell me you have the program pulled up. Good. Every now and then, he loves to have the back screenshot. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you're in this main part of the program, we've got this introduction video. So if you have no idea what to do and you're just like, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what to do, watch this introduction video. And we have tried so hard to make this easy to find your way around. But if you try to cut corners and you want to just understand it all at the same time, so you start trying to just kind of read some of the different steps, you are going to be lost. So stick with, you've got this first video, you've got an introduction, and the introduction, it might be kind of old, but for the most part, the same video is in there, and it's got a step-by-step. Hey, Helen, you're on video, just to let you know. There is a step-by-step, like what to do, where to go, and it also has the links to this Facebook page. It has a link to download Zoom. It has our story. Our story is in here.
Which is an amazing story, by the way.
And really, like, I kind of think that that's helpful to know where we're coming from so that you can understand a little bit more. So it's not required, but everything in the program is going to be something that you do what you feel you need to learn. So if that's something you feel drawn to, that's available to you. It's not like super long, but it's decent. So this has links. So when it says first click on training, you can click on that word training and it'll take you right there. And it gives you just kind of like a step-by-step. It talks about all the different things that are possible for us right now. And then in our book, we have, in our shop, we have some of our books. And we also have a donation link up here if you feel drawn to offering a donation for your training. It's not required, but it would definitely be helpful. The shop has, and we'll go ahead and go there because I'm clicking on it anyway. And let's just go down to all the different book choices. We have the Hands-On Guide to Overcoming Self-Sabotage and the Spirit Code Compounds and Charts. Now, both of these are already on the website uploaded so that you can find your way around on the website in a step-by-step format. However, having it in paperback is fantastic so that you are a little bit more prepared. And we'll talk a little bit more about like last day preparation and why we feel it's important to have this in paperback option as well. And then Healing from Above, book 1, 2, and 3. Those are our personal revelation documentations. And we put a different name on there because they are not our words. We feel that those are the words of the angels and the words of the Spirit and Heavenly Father and what we've been taught. So therefore, we felt that it was most appropriate to give the glory to Heavenly Father and to not put any sort of recognition on there. So why I'm bringing that up is to help you guys to understand that if you love reading near-death experiences, if you love reading about, I don't know, anything of the Spirit, anything that really kind of helps you to feel closer to Heavenly Father, book 1, 2, and 3 are really amazing. There's some hidden gems in there. Some stuff is absolutely teaching you bits and pieces of the program as we were learning it, but it's not like in a step-by-step format. So these are really just going to be, I think they're amazing. Like we read through them and I'm blown away so many times. I'm going, oh my goodness, I don't remember that. And it's like, oh, that's right, because it's not my words. I just transcribed them. Is that the right word? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then we also have a few extra copies of these other books that we purchased in bulk in advance that I think we have one left of the marriage book and then a handful of the emotion code books. And so we were just kind of trying to, get those out of our supply because we had too many. So that is our shop that is available to you. And we finally got shipping working on that. We've been working on that for a year, but heavens to Betsy. So as long as you're in the United States, we're good. If you are outside of the United States, contact us first before ordering a book because we need to see if that is something that we are capable of shipping to you. Somebody recently purchased some out of the country and the shipping was far more than the cost of the books. So there might be some other options to do that because we also have those books uploaded on YouTube. Not YouTube. I'm so sorry. They're not on YouTube. They're on Amazon. So they're on Amazon and they're also on CreateSpace. And Amazon, a lot of times you can get free shipping. So if you by any chance have Amazon Prime or anything like that, and you are out of country, then the free shipping might actually be better on Amazon and kind of make it easier on everybody all around. So, but please feel free to buy them from our shop for everybody else. And then when you click on training, okay. When you click on
that slow, but
yeah, sorry about that. When you click on training, we also tried to give you a step-by-step what to do and where to go and just a couple basic rules and what to expect. And so for these weekend videos, I just want you to understand what we're offering. You are basically going to receive support. And so when you go back through some of our old videos, which you can find when you click this first one, video, and we have our basics, your muscle testing, how to understand the appointment forms, which Helen had asked a question about how to diagnose. And I think that once you understand how to fill out your consultation forms, diagnosing gets easier and easier and easier. Because you already know what needs to be done.
Or rather, just identifying the step and what needs to be taken.
It can be a lot faster when you already have a chart put together with what needs to be done, because that rules out like half the stuff, so it kind of saves you a little bit of time. And then some more training videos, which are fantastic, just quick finds. If you click on this one, there's about 8 different videos linked inside here. And then when you come down here, these are all the replays of each of our weekly classes. So if anybody's ever said, how do I find the replay of your classes? They're right here. And you can scroll through. And like I said, this is like a self-study. So if there's something that you need to learn, if you're not good at muscle testing, please watch the muscle testing videos. And if you need, we can do more live classes. We did so many live classes that we stopped and we just focused on this particular class because we found that we were kind of becoming repetitious. There wasn't a whole lot more to cover after we had covered everything. Like there isn't much else to cover with muscle testing. So if that's something you still struggle with, please pick and choose in the muscle testing what you need to understand. And if you're starting from scratch, watch as many as you can. And so anyhow, over here in this column, we've got the weekly classes, and you can scroll through, and most of them have titles, not all of them. Going back through and redoing the pictures and watching the videos and finding out what it was is not something we quite have time to do right now. But if you watch one of the replays, I'll show you what I'm referring to. Scrolling all the way down right here where it just says live replay class. If you watch one of those with a date and you are receiving the training, take like a couple notes on like the 2 or 3 basic topics that we cover and send us an email and just say, hey, the replay class on 9/16/17, your topic was, and we can go back in and go ahead and redo a picture for that so that it gives kind of a more direction on what the class was about. And that would actually help us out a whole lot because we are trying to put all of our time right now to getting the manual published and getting some of the last couple things that we've been putting off the manual since last summer because we keep getting more and more information. Heavenly Father keeps offering us so much more training that it's too incomplete every single time we want to just say, okay, it's done. It's like, but, we need to finish this first. And before you know it, another 7 or 8 months have gone by. And so the manual is essentially ready to go. And there have been some people who have requested that we go ahead and just print off what we have. And anything else that is added can be added to a newer revised version or like a third, a second or third version of the book.
It'll actually be in 2 copies. Well, not 2 copies, but 2 volumes because it's so much in there.
Okay, and then I just want to let you guys all know that in the appointment forms link, this is going to also have some very valuable information. So like I said, if you're new and you don't know where to start and you're kind of lost, when you're in this training section, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like skip out of training before I was done teaching it to you. There is so much valuable information in all of these links. You do not have to have them all memorized. This is not a test. You're not getting a test. But the Introduction to Spirits is an amazing slideshow. We even did a training video on it.
Somebody did some editing for us too. Thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you. Because sometimes we just publish before we even have the time to really do a whole lot of proofreading just because there's so much information flooding in that it's been wonderful having you guys as a team. And so if you don't know what the frequencies and vibrations are, or if you don't understand like the healing from relationship conflict, we're always adding to that. So that is one that see that one as a watch it once and you're done, or read it once and you're done. And this is going to be fantastic to put to use when you're having a fight with your spouse or one of your kids, and start trying it. But also recognize that we update it all the time. And I'm actually in the middle of an update right now, where we're recognizing that sometimes it's too hard to jump straight into those conflict resolution steps. Sometimes we need to do some other things first. Or maybe we don't have the conflict resolution steps in there now, we just have the tapping. There's just a couple of things that are missing that needs to be added. Anyhow, and then understanding energy, this is an amazing link that Paul has put together in the manual. And this is just full of tons of information. And we could read each one to you, but I think that would be perfectly, I think you guys would be perfectly capable of understanding everything that is in each of those links just fine.
So actually,
Did you want that? I'm sorry, honey.
well, I was just going to mention the healing the spirit portion is actually taken straight out of the preparatory steps, healing the spirit, but it's done in a slideshow. And
Is this where you're wanting to go?
no.
Yeah, and you
But
can stop hitting the back button. I think that's
Anyway.
the problem.
yeah. Anyway, so
Did you
the
want that
we'll
in the
just-
training?
Well, I guess
No,
we're
go
going
ahead.
there now.
What was it that you wanted to show?
The healing the spirit right here
Okay.
is just the same as the steps in the preparatory steps, but it's done in a slideshow and it's got a few added pictures to maybe give it better explanations. So
Yeah.
it breaks it down step by step, so that
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit more easier to digest.
Can you scroll down on that?
Well, you can actually hit the full screen button there,
Aha.
and that still doesn't do it.
Yeah. That's good to know.
Yeah. I'll have to maybe take another look at that and see. what the
See
deal is.
why we can't see it all?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm glad that we clicked on that. Isn't that important? So some really, really important things that you guys can learn about. So if you've asked the same question, what are these open energetic wounds? Or, can you explain to me how to heal the spirit? It's all in here. And we receive messages like that quite often. And a lot of times it's just easier to refer you to this page than to try to re-explain it. Because it's just very thorough. It's very clear and comprehensive. So once you understand a decent amount of the training, like I said, you don't have to watch all the videos, but as long as you've watched the ones you have questions on and you don't understand, and as long as you have an idea of how to do the appointment forms. Now, why is the appointment form important? Is that we have this initial consultation form that we do with everybody. And sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow. And everybody's first appointment is going to be very educational that we do with people. And so you can download this form and you can specialize it to yourself, put your own picture, take off our picture, whatever you choose to do to make this your form. But we highly recommend using the rest of this format, the different topics, and this is the explanation that you're looking at. So all of that is not in the form that you download. It's just the, the basic
Explanation.
Well, the basic grid or the basic template or whatever.
Yeah.
So this is the one that's the explanation. But the one that you'll download and keep on your computer is going to help you to organize your own to-do list. And it'll help you to organize your husband, your children. Like if you do everything as just a game of playing catch, like, okay, well, I don't really have time for that. So let's just go ahead and see what is causing his pain right now. Here's the thing, you're going to always be playing the game of catch. We want to get ahead of it. We don't want to always be just cleaning up. We would like to get to the point where we clean up everything, including constipation, including digestive issues, including sleep issues, including the rashes, including the heart disease or diabetes or infections or whatever. Let's do it all. Let's not just focus on one because they're all interconnected in a way. And so when you are cleaning up one thing and you're not cleaning up a little bit of everything, you tend to have leftover. Like you don't have a complete progression of health. And of course there's external sources. So remember, if there's a lot of toxins, pollutions, an unhealthy diet, black mold in your house, we're cleaning that up. So we've been congested nonstop. And just some different issues that are external, that there are so many different angles that we need to look at, that it is not typically a one cause, bam, boom, we're done, and then, well, why am I not better? There's a lot that goes into all the different things that you are experiencing. And ideally, your spirit, your mind, and your body don't want to experience any of the darkness. And so your body's going to find a way to scream for help in one way or another. So what we got to do is we got to listen. So go through this, understand these different questions that you can go through, ask the questions, download that form, fill it out, and keep it up. So we actually had put together a folder on our desktop where we have, and the appointment form is just, it's on there as well, where it's a little bit more basic. It has just kind of like your basic, what do you do with each appointment after the consultation? And like that grid that you saw in that first one, that's going to be where you put like all the energies. You go through anything and everything that needs to be put in there. And that's going to include the energy section, the advanced section if you're in there, looking through the titles and the miraculous opportunities, going through the different pathogens, going through a little bit of everything and just putting together everything that needs to be taken care of. So in the everyday appointment form, the every appointment, you know, all the work that you do after that, you would fill out one of these. And so this is going to be something that you can offer to each of the people that you're working with, or just to keep organized what you're doing. Okay. That way, you know, you don't lose track, because that's what happens is you do a whole bunch of work, but you don't write it down. And then you're going, what is bothering me? Wait, I thought I did that already. Didn't I already do that? Maybe I didn't. Maybe I got the other one. I don't know. I don't remember. Right. So write it down. And if it's just for you, you can just keep updating your own appointment or your own initial consult form. But if you're doing this, you know, professionally with clients, I highly recommend you use both. The consults for the first one, appointment form is for all the other ones after that. And I always keep the initial consult updated as we do work. Okay. So I know it's a lot of work, but I promise you it's going to be so much more thorough than the way that we did it for our whole first year. It was just a mess. Our notes were a mess. And oh my goodness.
Yeah,
okay.
So we have it fairly well refined for you if you follow the steps.
Just
but like Melissa
easy.
said, if you just jump right into it without going through like those training steps and appointment forms, you're
gonna be
probably going to be lost. And
Yeah.
You're going to be like, so if I have this problem, what do I do for it? And so go through and again, just look at those appointment forms and fill that out first. Well, yeah. So, after you get it filled out, then you can review, like maybe it's an energy or pathogen, toxin, something else that might be on there. Maybe it's in the specific treatments actually. So different options available for you. And maybe if it's what we call one of the living energies, and for that we need to work through like the self-sabotage steps. If it's a ongoing conflict issue or relationship issue, or just like the issue like the victim cycle that we tend to get involved in, where we think that
most of us
everybody else is to blame.
Right.
And
that's where it's really hard to align with agency, is when it's everybody else, all of your trials are everybody else's fault or somebody else's fault. And so in order for it to get better, somebody else has to make a change in order for it to get better. And that can be really destructive. Yeah. You know, that's definitely not God's path. So
among the hardest to tackle.
So if you remember that we are here to become more like our Father in heaven, and that we are here to train to be like him, then that thought pattern is not going to progress you in that training. That thought pattern is going to sabotage you. So it's going to be the natural man that you're resisting. That thought pattern is resisting the natural man. So, I mean, it is, in order to get out of that thought pattern, we have to resist the natural man. So it's hard to get out of that thought pattern, especially in conflict. And that is when you're really putting it to the test anyway.
Yeah.
And we could talk about that forever, but.
Yeah, so anybody that logged on just fairly soon, we're basically covering some of the basics, like some of the beginning steps for a person to start out with.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think the last maybe a couple months even, we've kind of gotten into
the bigger
some
stuff.
of the more complicated matters that we've been reviewing. Right. And kind of discovering on some of our clients as well. And so now we're just kind of trying to bring things back to the beginning and take a look where we would actually start out with. So anyway, what we could do next is look at the energies, like an energy release, like a template, and just go through and explain what's on there and why it's on there in the first place, and why it's actually a really big deal that we go through these. And
remember, these preparatory steps are just as important as the energies. And you definitely, I would always recommend the preparatory steps before jumping into any of the energies.
Yeah.
And if you understand energy work, and if you are like gung-ho and really diving in, you don't have to understand everything to get into the advanced section. We have quite a few people who are just being introduced to energy work with us, or they are, I don't know, still kind of in a place where this is all kind of hard to grasp. And in that case, that's, you might want to wait for the advanced section. But if energy work is something that you're very familiar with, if you understand the ways of the spirit and in the most generalized form, like I don't mean super deep, super intense, but if you are really comfortable with wanting to be able to get into some of these, like in the advanced section, we have the armor of God. We have some advanced shielding. We have the removal of the dark laws, the removal of Lucifer's children, the healing of spiritual trauma, the removal of dark twin, 2D energy, we are going to be practicing spiritual sight. The dark energies that are named after you. So some of these harder ones.
Some of them are really hard, and that's why they're in the advanced section.
But they're not too hard to do. We still recommend kind of working on those. So anyhow, I just kind of wanted to bring up that it doesn't cost anything. There really is not a hidden cost. This is not one of those. We were actually trained by a marketing person saying, offer this and this and this for free and then charge a whole lot for all this other stuff. And we were going, yeah, that doesn't feel right. So we did not do that. So I just want to let you know that that's not like some big crazy hidden cost or anything. It is only locked so that you don't jump right in, because a lot of people sometimes jump to the biggest and the hardest, and then they are confused, and then they just give up on everything. Mm-hmm. And so we just wanted to help you pace yourself a little bit, because we have found that most everybody, when they jump into the program, because we get a lot of the same comments from most people, when they come in and they see this page, they jump straight to energies. And they a lot of times will skip the training or the preparatory steps or the appointment forms, or they'll jump into pathogens without knowing how to do a compound, which is in the charts and compounds, or they have no idea where to start, kind of what those basics are. So I really just want to remind you to start with the introduction, go to training, appointment forms, preparatory steps. That 4 is like your winning combination on the top left. And then, as soon as you feel ready, just let us know and we can unlock the advanced section for you. It's not too big of a deal. And then Trudy said, really enjoying the charts and the prompts to check for. So I think that the charts and in fact, we don't talk about these parts of the charts, like the swords, too often. Mm-hmm. But when we are, and we don't talk about actually a lot of this stuff too often. Yeah. And that's something that we apologize that we don't bring this up too many times.
Well, the chakras and energy fields are kind of basic. Some are the organs. So.
Yeah. But it gives you a chart that you can understand and you can refer to. Anyhow, so the purpose of the sword chart, we probably should put this in so that it doesn't have the scrolling up and down option, because that's kind of messy. But anyhow, the purpose of this is that they all kind of serve a different purpose. And so like if you're going to be doing a cord cutting that the cord is attached to a different part of your brain, then you're going to want the laser. If it is connected to like your heart, like you're going through a divorce and you need to remove some negative cords that are connected to your heart, first you want a muscle test, but dissolving with love is highly recommended, or any of these other like dissolving methods, or we like to also send the light of the atonement and to convert it with the light of the atonement. This says dissolve, but typically we will convert it with the light of the atonement into a positive cord, more understanding, more forgiving. So these are just some different ways, and that's why it says dissolve with fire, is we know it's not a sword, but it's another way we get rid of or that's another way that we cut cords.
This is mostly for cord cutting.
Yeah. And so this is important just to know that there's probably more. There's actually definitely more that are not on our chart. And so if you don't know what sword that you need, and most of the time we have the swords written in our program, and most of the energy releases and most of the steps, you're not going to really need this chart because we have them already scripted for you and ready to go. And we've done all the testing and all of the intuition work ourselves. But if you're feeling like you need a different type of sword that you don't know what it is, then listen inward. That's how we learned about any of these swords. We listen to the spirit.
Bless you.
Thank you. Okay. So, I do want to just kind of remind you, you do not have to have all this memorized. You do not have to understand everything. When you have a pretty good understanding, then, and you say, hey, I really want to start incorporating this into my practice, or I want to start becoming a practitioner, please just let us know. Well, first of all, take it to Heavenly Father. And if you receive a confirmation from God that, that you're ready and that this would be beneficial, just let us know and contact us. We may or may not ask you some questions. So far, everybody who has become a practitioner, we've already developed a relationship with, so it's been a little bit more simple. But please don't skip out on the self-sabotage, because a lot of people feel that it is just like basic coaching and mentoring steps that they've all done. So if you've already done coaching and mentoring steps, you don't need this portion. Please don't bypass that. There are so many steps in here that you can use with clients that are put in a step-by-step format. It simplifies everything that you need to do, because it goes through a lot of the preparatory steps. It goes through like the wall removal. It goes through like a little bit of everything. And we have updated the wall removal. So just to let you know, not in this book, unfortunately, but in the preparatory steps, the wall removal has been updated and made a little bit simpler to follow. So when you go through all of this, and in fact, we could always put in the updated one in the book, because we need to order new copies of the book anyway, because we have some orders and we ran out of books. So that's actually a good idea. Go ahead and update it for all the rest of them at least. And then you guys are welcome to always print off any changes that we make and like stick them in the manuals that you've purchased. Anyhow, so we just don't want you to miss out on some of these gems. These are some amazing steps, and step 10, 11, and 12 are all helping you to start aligning with the higher law, so that your thoughts, your emotions, your memories are more Christ-like as well. So there's tons of energy work in these steps, tons of visualizations, definitely some coaching steps, and the first few steps are sometimes a little bit hard to get through, but each one also has a video. And so as you go through, you can watch the video or you can read, whatever you prefer. It is totally your personal development work. And these are the same videos that were in the training section where you just saw some of the replay videos. These are the exact same videos. They're just more organized because they're also put with the document. So I would kind of recommend using this section. But we also have the marriage videos, which is also in our free section. So most everything we do is in the program section, but they're also in the free section with a little summary. So that, let's say you have some friends that are asking for some help with their marriage and counseling hasn't helped them too much, and maybe they could benefit from this. You're welcome to link this page. We recommend linking this page as opposed to the program page, because in the program section, it's going to be locked and they won't be able to access those links. But in this area, which the home, video, all of these links, all of this stuff, all the way from shop to home are all, available to everybody. It's just once you click on program that everything is going to be within the program. So if we go back to the program section, one of the great ways to find your way around when it comes to it is that Paul has, let's go ahead and go to the energies section. Paul has linked down here. Once we get through the template, okay, this may have not been the best one to click on. I wanted to show where we have the links on the bottom so they can find their way around
it's in all of them pretty much except for that one.
Okay, down here on the bottom, we've tried making it easy for you to find your way around the program. So let's say you're in the self-sabotage section and you want to, let's say you're working with somebody, you're working with a client, and you need to quickly pull up their titles. You can go ahead and click on the Miraculous Opportunities without having to go back to the program and go back and forth. It just
It's
saves
a
us.
shortcut.
Yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
shortcut.
So if you go into any one, such as chords right here, and you scroll down, there it is. So then we can jump over to the compounds.
I don't utilize that as often as I should.
Yeah, I use it all the time. So again, scrolling all the way down, jump into tapping.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's actually, do you want to go back to the energy now?
No,
And then-
there's quite a few things that we could talk about. We could talk about energies. We could talk about tapping.
All right.
We can talk about the troubleshooting that Helen asked for, and we also can talk about the preparatory steps for the second coming. So
So the
there's a
front,
comment.
yeah, but by the way, the front page is just the program page on the front right there. So
Okay.
let's see what that comment is.
Okay, that's a long comment. Do you want me to read it while? Okay, and it's private.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and go into that one later.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't want to jump all around different topics here.
Yeah. So
But-
that's why I was thinking, you sure you don't want to go through the energy, just the explanation?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Yeah. So Helen, when you're saying that there's something wrong and you need to troubleshoot, you don't have to test everything to see what's wrong. So if you have your initial consult put together, it simplifies it. You can look at your initial consult and say, okay, what is it that is causing my symptoms? And so there's a bunch of different questions. Let's take it off screen share for just a moment. And then let's go through the energy. I think they kind of go hand in hand. Okay, so let's say that you are sick, right? Because Helen's sick right now. So let's say that you're sick, you feel horrible, you've got a nasty cough, and you're up in the middle of the night coughing out of control. And you contact me, and 10 seconds later, she's my mom, so she's the one that gets the response 10 seconds
Or
later.
if she has nightmares in the middle of the night.
Right, or that happens too. So there's certain calls that I have blocked after certain hours so that I can sleep, and hers get to come through. So and so anyhow, in the middle of the night, if she contacts me and she's like, help, I'm in a horrible coughing spasm, what do I do? And a few seconds later, I'm like, oh, I can, I know what it is. I'll take care of it. And then her coughing spasm went away. And she's like, how did you figure that out and resolve it so quickly? Like, can we do that every single time? And so something that I want to say, first of all, is one, I had somebody comment to me recently about my mother. And my mother gets sick usually in the winters. And when she does, she has a hard time getting better. And almost every single time she coughs so hard when she gets bronchitis that she breaks a rib. And I don't think she's broken a rib yet, which is pretty amazing because she has pneumonia this time. And so somebody had come to me and they said, well, and this is actually somebody who we know really well and we've worked with many, many, many times. And she said, well, why is she sick? And so she asked me this directly, and she goes, why is she sick? I don't understand. And I said, well, we've been working with her for a while to see what is causing this, but there's a lot that goes into it. There's so many different points here. And right now with how sick she is, we can only get so much accomplished. And a lot of it's going to be preventative measures for next time, or, just kind of cleaning up, but we still have to wait on the body to do the healing process. And at a certain age, the healing process takes a little bit more time, and that's okay. And she kind of said, well, I just don't understand, because I thought that if you take care of it quick enough, you can avoid illness, and you can avoid this, and you can avoid that. And I really want to bring that up because I think it's really important to remember we are not avoiding opposition with this program. Okay? My glasses are weird on me today. We are not avoiding opposition. We're not avoiding illness. We're not avoiding trials in our lives. And I think that's a common misconception from something I've heard from a lot of different people is, well, why in the world would something not work on your body? If you're the energy healer, and this actually came from Paul's mom like 2 weeks ago, because he has a small rash on his leg, and she goes, do you guys need to go to somebody else to help you get better? Because why do you have a rash? Like, why would you still have a rash if you know how to fix it? And she's like, I can give you a name and number for somebody. And I went, I just started laughing so hard, and I went, that's so kind and that's so polite. And I recognize that we're all still learning, and we can learn from one another. And we can utilize that as an opportunity to get help when we do need help. However, because a lot of you guys will come to us for help, and some of you guys have teamed up with one another to help one another, and I love that. Because seriously, if you're having a hard time getting started, give us a call. Let's do a session. We do a fair trade financial donation for sessions, and we can talk about that at the time. But contact us for a session, and we would love to help you get that jump start or help you through the hard, troublesome. We love working on the hard, troublesome cases and situations, but and I really do admit we have certain people we do go to when we get stumped. We have a handful of people that we always turn to when we really need it. So we're, it's not a prideful that we're afraid to ask for help. It's what's funny is that some people struggle with recognizing that opposition is a part of life, and that we can't totally avoid illness. We can't totally avoid trials. Like, that's not a part of God's plan. That is not what this program is all about. It is not, hey, sign up for this program and you will never experience opposition ever again, because you can resolve it really quick before it becomes a problem. And go ahead.
I was going to say, somebody made a comment a couple of weeks ago that she said that by the time we get done working on everybody else, the healers, a lot of times the last person that gets worked on.
Right. Like, seriously. And a lot of times I reap some of the benefits while I'm helping somebody else as well, because I don't always have much time for me either.
Right. Yeah, I told my mom, if I really wanted to get it done, I would make Melissa sit down with me and we would take care of it.
But at the same time, there's something to learn. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of what I want you guys to recognize, first of all, is that if you're experiencing illness, it's for a learning opportunity. It's for an opportunity for you to progress, something for you to learn how to overcome, something to kind of push you out of your comfort zone.
Another example, we've worked on some of Melissa's issues a lot, and we found that
I don't have any issues.
Yeah. We found that her thyroid was actually
sleeping.
Asleep.
It was functioning.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, it was sleeping. I thought that was kind of funny.
What in the world? Why is it sleeping? It's functioning fine.
It was functioning 100%, but it was sleeping.
Yeah, so we
sleeping on the job.
We worked through that, and that was something that we had never even really considered before. Mm-mm. And so, there's just things here and there that still pop up with us that we're going to continue to learn from.
And something that I actually did with that it was just a deep conversation I had with Heavenly Father, where I was recognizing that my body functions based upon my thought pattern. That it's created to function perfectly, but if my thought pattern is toxic, and if I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, oh, I'm getting fatter, and I don't like the way my body is looking right now, I'm really unhappy with it. Every time I eat a piece of chocolate, I put on 5 pounds. Why is this happening? And so the more and more that you think those toxic patterns towards your body, the more that your body tends to function differently. And it's something that we're calling mortal laws, and we don't have anything written up on this yet. And and so I had this conversation with Heavenly Father about, okay, well, if I rewrite my mortal laws, and I was getting kind of detailed about what this would look like. And then I decided to hand it all over to Heavenly Father. And I decided, hang on, this is his body. He knows how this should function, not me. I'm not going to pretend to know more than him. I'm not going to pretend to understand more than what he understands. This isn't right of me to continuously think that I can write a mortal law better than he can. And so I thought that was just really powerful, a really powerful opportunity for us to take a step back and really align our bodies with him, and to stop trying to control the outcome stop trying to control how the body is functioning, and to really humble ourselves to this perfect creation, that it is a perfect creation. And once we remove all of the toxicity and all of the darkness, your body is created to function properly. Your sabotages, after you remove the darkness, after you really are aligned with God's thought pattern, and your sabotages are going to be external. They're going to be genetically modified fruit. It is going to be the EMF waves in your cell phones. It's going to be the pollutions and the parasites in your water. It's going to be the EMF waves I'm getting from the laptop that I'm talking to you right now. It's going to be the pollutions and the toxins in the air around you. Like a lot of the external influences can also include an ex-husband who hates your guts and thinks that you're a bad person and sends you destructive energy, or acts as a mortal spirit who might come into your space. And so the more that we recognize that we are a whole, we are all one. And so if we have an issue with an external influence, such as another person, another mortal, another spirit, the more that we desire their success, and the more that we share love with them, and the more that we assist, the more that we make progress. The more that we kind of cut them out, cast them out, and we're like, no, stop it, this is my space, get out. We found that the harder it is, that the more attacks that we have. So the more that we really align ourselves with Christ and his teachings, the more that we've been able to find significant success, that this is not about me. I was actually saying this morning. This was a great joke I made this morning. That when we stop saying that it's all about me, and it becomes a we, that's when we start to make progress. I thought the we was funny. So it's really when we see ourselves as a whole, as brothers and sisters, and that it's not about, I possess him and he's going to act the way I want him to act, and he's going to treat me the way I want him to treat me, and he's going to think of me the way I want him to think of me, and he's going to spend money the way I want him to spend money. Like, the more that we do that, the more sabotages are going to pop up. And the more unhealthy thought patterns, the more illness, the more symptoms, the more struggles that you're going to have. And the more that you love and respect others for who they are. Like, here's an example, because we need to remember, this is not all peaches and roses and flowers, that everything is not perfect. How do we align when things stink, right? So our neighbor behind us, our fence is rotting. So we have a shared fence, and the fence is rotting. And we have a dog and they have a dog, and they don't like each other. And we're constantly clearing their dog because we recognize that the dogs are like trying to murder each other all the time. And this fence is this little tiny little, 1-inch piece of wood is the only thing keeping them apart from each other. So both dogs on both sides are like scratching and clawing and biting at this wood. And so the wood is rotting and falling apart faster and faster. And so her and us, we have both been working on this fence, trying to patch it up, trying to repair it, not replace it, but repair it. And so just a few days ago, she stood on her back porch yelling and screaming and blaming this fence issue all on our dog and all on us, and trying to play this victim mentality. And I recognized that in the past, I probably would have gotten really angry, really up in her face, like, excuse me. And I probably would have yelled back, and I probably would have gotten upset back. But I recognized I kept on accidentally calling her honey. And I think that may have come off as disrespectful, but I really felt like she was probably suffering. And I just kept having this intense feeling like, I wonder if she just doesn't have any money to help pay for it. And so she would rather blame so that she doesn't have to pay for something that she doesn't have any money for. Maybe she's on disability. She wouldn't leave her porch by her door, and I've never seen her outside ever, ever, ever. And so maybe she has a fear of going outside. And so going out to fix the fence really was scary and horrible and horrendous and miserable for her. And I haven't seen her husband in quite a while. It's been about a year since I've seen him. And I wonder if he left or if he died. So maybe there's some really big stuff going on. And I just kept thinking that. And I just kept saying, honey, why are you so upset? And I kept saying, why am I calling you honey? I don't know why that word keeps coming out of my mouth, but I kept on feeling like, why are you upset? Why don't we find a solution for this? Why, why is this turning into such anger? Why are you mad about us? This is a shared issue. Let's share the solution. And so I just found that it was really interesting that the more that we see the other people who are not being nice to us and the people who are blaming and looking for a fight, the more that we see them as a whole person, like what they're really experiencing, the more I noticed I never got mad at her. I just kept saying, we should probably fix this. We should probably go knock on her door so that we're not like, hollering, because she was way over at the back of her porch. So we're not hollering across her whole yard. And actually go knock on the door and talk to her and fix this before it becomes bigger, because it could probably snowball into something. I don't know if it will or not, but it could. And in the past, I might have instead felt, I don't want her to be mad at me. I don't want her to think this about me. I don't want her to think that about me. And we need to change her mind, and we need to, I don't know. It was just a very different thought pattern that I used to have. And it's really shifted. And that's something that I kind of want to encourage you guys to start practicing, is when that conflict comes in, because it will. We don't get to avoid the opposition. Once again, this is not about avoiding opposition. It's not about avoiding sickness. It's not about avoiding conflict. What were you about to say?
Go ahead.
It's about how do we resolve it in a healthier way. So how do we align with the opposition? We've been finding that the more that you resist opposition, so let's say, your husband, I don't know why this is the idea coming to my mind, so let's just go with it. Let's say your husband is either participating in pornography, or he's cheating, or he's about to cheat, and you're aware that he's flirting with somebody at work, or he's just pulled away, emotionally. You have a whole bunch of different reasons to be mad right now, but how is that going to resolve the issue? And that's where a lot of times we want to ask ourselves, what is my goal here? Is my goal to be victimized? Is my goal to be mad at him because he's breaking my heart? Is my goal to be the one that's right and the good person while he's the bad guy? Is my goal to avoid this and pretend that it's not happening, or to try and change the past, or to try and change him? Like, what exactly is your goal here? And if your goal is to have a loving connection with your spouse and to have a happy marriage, then let's actually start taking the steps to actually create that. Because what we tend to do instead is we tend to get in conflict when that happens. We tend to feel wounded inside because it's all about us. But when we recognize, if your spouse is doing that, it's something within him. It's not something within you, because you're not the one doing the cheating. You're not the one watching the pornography. There's something within him. So when you feel wounded, you shift the attention to being about you. And that's really hard, you guys. I'm not saying this is easy. You guys have heard my stories, right? My life was not easy. I'm not coming at this saying, this is a really simple task, because it's not. So start with the prayer, where you start praying for him. And that's going to help you to shift the focus off of yourself and the way that you feel rejected and the way that you feel wounded. But for you, it's really a trigger. You're being triggered because you don't feel like you're lovable. You don't feel like you're good enough, and you don't feel like you can trust him, and you don't feel like he's attracted to you. Like, the perspective is more on you as opposed to on him. So the more that we shift it to him, just like the neighbor lady, right? I could have been like, hey, we paid to fix the fence too. We probably put in a little bit of money. Our landlord has put in a little bit of money. You put in a little bit of money. That's called just sharing the problem, And I could have definitely tried to blame her dog or tried to blame her. Just like with my spouse, I could definitely blame him. And as you guys know, my second husband was hiding that he had another woman. And you could blame the other person till the cows come home. But what is your goal? If your goal really is that loving connection, let's start making some changes. And that's really where we kind of come at with the conflict resolution. But anyhow, let's say that you are doing all of these energy releases. You're doing all of this work, and you're trying so hard to improve things, but your family is falling apart. So let's say your spouse, your children, let's say your children are rebelling, or your children are kind of emotionally checked out of the family, or getting involved in drugs or alcohol or, any number of problems that we know a lot of you guys are dealing with, and a lot of us are all dealing with. And that when you have those issues going on at home, it is, the word coming to my mind is kind of like a breeding ground of creating a lot of disconnection, a lot of darkness, a lot of trials and troublesome issues that we're not here to avoid those things. We're here to find how can we align with this opposition in such a way that we are helping one another. I am helping my spouse get to this problem. He doesn't have a pornography problem, but let's say he did. And just say, honey, I recognize that this is an addiction, that you're doing this because there's something missing from within you, because you need more connection. You need that fulfillment because there is some sort of high or some sort of release that you're receiving from it. And I do recognize that maybe we've had a lack of connection in our intimate life, and that I haven't tried really hard on my end to be as fun and playful in the bedroom, or there's been some serious lack of intimacy altogether. So I would like to do this together and recognize that this addiction to pornography is not a cheating. This is something that I would really love to kind of help women to understand, that it is not that he's cheating on you, and it feels like it. I know it feels like it. I've been there too. It absolutely feels like he's cheating on you, but he's got an emptiness within him, and it messes up the way that he sees you. It messes up his understanding of women. It'll absolutely lead to cheating. It'll absolutely lead to intense disconnection, possible divorce. So how can we see him the way that Heavenly Father sees him, the way that Heavenly Mother sees him, in such a way that we want to help him? And if he slips, he slips. We want him to feel safe enough to tell us. If you slipped, I would want you to be able to come up and say, hey, honey, I looked at pornography last night, right? And if you did that and I was like, again, seriously, that's it. I told you one more time and you're done. That may be how you want to respond. But if you remember, this is about him overcoming something. This is about him learning how to become more like Heavenly Father as well. So this is his life. This is his opportunity to progress and to experience agency and to experience a body and to go through his life. He's chosen you as his mate. This is not like a forced union. And so he chooses to wake up next to you every single day. You choose to wake up next to him every single day. And if you guys are both still there, then how can we help him through his trials and through what he is going through, what he is struggling with? How do we get over our own triggers, our own insecurities, and start really helping each other through theirs? And it in turn help us. So the point of this is, when these issues are going on in your family and these troubles tend to kind of, they tend to sabotage your own progress, because if there's a lot of conflict at home, right, it doesn't matter how much you're trying to work on yourself. A lot of these things can be recreated. So it's about emotions. It's about how you feel. And your emotions are going to be absolutely based upon your emotional understanding of what's really happening. So how can we really invite God into this conversation and shift this with his perspective? So let's go ahead and go through. I want to bring up tapping and then the energy, and then I promise, I swear, he's right, I can talk. Sorry about that. So let's say, before we get into that really quick, let's say, and this is going to answer Helen's question, he comes to me with this issue, right? And he's like, hey, I've got this going on, and I think I'm coming down with a cold, and so I'm not going to be able to go to work for the next couple of days. And let's say he gets paid hourly, and so you're like, what? You're sick again? Right? And so how can we help him in such a way that we are aligning with the opposition as opposed to resisting it? First of all, aligning with the opposition would be when he tells you he looked at pornography, still choosing to love him, still choosing to recognize this is not about you. This is about something he is going through. He already feels bad. He already feels incredibly embarrassed. He already feels like he really messed up and probably doesn't even feel like he deserves you, or he's afraid to tell you because he's afraid he's going to lose you. So let's not feed into his fears, because once he gets to that point where he doesn't want to tell you anymore, there's not going to be any progress. That is where those walls go up, those boundaries go up, and all of a sudden you're not experiencing connection, which does what? It breeds him into his addictions more. So, sorry. So aligning with that opposition is where I recognize that I could have turned that into an opposition. I could have turned that into feeling as though my husband has a problem and he wants those women with beautiful tight bodies, and he's got me with soft and sag. and that's why he's looking at them, is because I'm not good enough. And that's what he prefers. And I'm never going to be slender enough, and I'm never going to look good enough. And he's totally unattracted to me, and our marriage is falling apart, and he really, wants somebody else.
And the other women are photoshopped too, so they're definitely going to look.
That's if it's a picture and not a video. I would assume the videos only get so much editing. I don't know. Okay. So that is one way I can align with that opposition. Another one would be, let's say that you're sick, right? And he comes down with a nasty cold, like a really bad cold, whether it's a plague or like the Spanish flu or just a regular bacterial viral infection. And he comes to me and he's like, I can't work for a couple of days. We don't have enough money to pay rent without me working, but I'm too sick, and I cannot stay home and take care of the kids either because I'm too sick. And you're going, how am I supposed to do it all, right? How am I supposed to make ends meet when he's not picking up his end of the share? So how can you really shift that focus, right? I want to go blow my nose. Do you want to throw anything in there?
You're on a roll.
Okay, I got to blow my nose. Just give me a second so I'm not driving everybody crazy.
All right. Any questions? Any at all? Let's take a 5-minute break here. Get some butter, some buttered popcorn, and some drinks. Interval. Okay. Anyway, she's been saying some really good stuff, and I hope that you can maybe relate to it. And
I hope you guys understand what we're trying to tell you is that the coaching, which is what you're getting right now, is just as important as the energy work. And the reason for that is that when we sit down, so let's say you contact us and we have mostly a coaching call and very little energy work, that is still, that is going to help you possibly more, because it's going to help you to actually change those different sabotages that are happening in your life. So like Helen said, so what do you do when you do come down with the flu? You can go down and you can muscle test and see, okay, so what is causing these symptoms? What all is going on? And this is where you can just start basic. You can start muscle test. So do you have a bacterial viral infection? Yes. And then you go ahead and pull up the bacterial and viral infections and see what kind he has. Maybe he's got the rebellious spirit infection. Maybe he has the earthly or the self-created. If it's self-created, it's going to be an energy release. Multiple, there's I think 5 different choices there. And then we've got different plagues and just a whole slew of different treatments that are all there, that are all available. But remember that it all kind of depends, first of all, what's God's will? Is it and I always test that first. Is it 100% God's will for you to get better? And if my answer is yes, or is it God's will for you to continue being sick? Or this kind of depends on what you're asking, right? You can ask it so many different ways. So if you're asking if it's God's will for you to get better, then you go through and you can work on those treatments. But we also have to be patient on the body. And that's the part that I think some people struggle with remembering, is that this is not a Tylenol that just makes your headache go away. And then your headache comes back 4 hours later and the Tylenol wears off because the problem's still there. This is resolving what's actually happening. And so let's say that the reason why he's sick is because we've been fighting for a week straight Okay, so let's say that it has been nonstop conflict in our home. It's been venomous. It's been nasty. Our shields are down. There's rebellious spirits in our home like crazy. I'm managing his mind. He's managing my mind. And we're just a mess, right? And that's very much the possibility. So that's going to make his body, let's say his spirit's only 20% in his body, and my spirit's only 20% in my body. So when he gets sick, I'm even more frustrated because I don't have the energy to pick up the slack, right? And so that's going to just kind of breed the conflict and breed the problems. So seriously, if we sit down with you guys and you make that appointment and we're giving you coaching, this is why. It doesn't matter how much fix it we do. If the problem is still there, the problem is possibly in the family. It is possibly active in the family. So like I said, we can kind of fix you till the cows come home. But if that disconnection, that conflict in the home is still breeding, that's what we want to focus on, is how can we align with agency, align with opposition, respect each other's choices, respect each other and who they are, who the other person really is, in such a way that there's so much peace. There's such a peaceful dynamic in our home that he can get better, because one, his spirit can reside within his body 100%. So let's say Helen is asking this question. I would say, and this is usually what I ask, okay? So I usually, if she's sick and she's asking me what's wrong, I'll usually ask if she has a bacterial viral infection. I'm like, okay, so she'll need a compound. That's easy enough. I can go through the different pathogens. So if you don't know what that is, click on pathogens, click on bacterial, viral. There's tons of information in there that you're gonna love. And I look at him and I say, so how much of your spirit's in your body? Oh, 20%. Why? How many pieces are you in? 3 pieces. Okay. So do you know where the other 2 pieces are? Okay. And can they come back? No. Oh, I wonder why they cannot come back. So are you managing your own mind? No. Oh. Am I managing your mind? Yes. Oh, no. I'm sorry. And then we can kind of start troubleshooting.
You can manage my mind anytime you want.
And then vice versa.
Did you just make me say that?
I love you. So, if you guys knew what my old marriages look like, you guys would be so happy to hear this guy being so silly and so sweet. Okay. So, thank you, Trudy. There was another comment earlier. Was it something that we needed to say out loud?
No.
Okay. Well, that should probably come up. So there is a couple different things that we needed to. Oh. Okay. I don't have my glasses on there here. Okay. So one of the other things that I would ask is, okay, so how many spirits are within your body, right? And so let's say I'm testing 4. And I go, uh-oh. You have 4 spirits in your body. Only 20% of you is in there. The other 2 pieces of you are missing, and they're not going to be able to come back because maybe they're chained or they're restricted or something. And I'm managing your mind and you're managing my mind. I've only got part of my spirit in my body. I give up. It's too much work.
I'll go to bed.
I'm going to just go to bed, and maybe my spirit can do it.
I'm sure tomorrow morning it'll be better.
Or I can go and talk to my husband. There's actually one person we talked to, one married couple that we talked to, and that was kind of how they responded when they found out that there was all of this negative stuff happening in their marriage, and they wanted to consciously resolve it. And it was more in a, I can't believe you're doing that to me mindset. So that is not a good solution. And let's not go up to our spouse and say, you just gave me war energy. You cast my spirit out with destructive energy. You are trying to manage my mind. You split my spirit and broke my heart. Well, sometimes we do say that, you broke my heart. but that is going to continue sabotaging the problem. So this is actually one of the conflict resolution things that I'm kind of working on updating, because we get to try it out on ourselves, and sometimes we really resist the conflict resolution. And so we've been looking for more and more ways that we can simplify it, make it a little bit easier to overcome. So Paul, what would you do?
So anyway, about that, it still works.
I'm just adding more to it.
Sometimes it's just really hard to want to make it work.
Right. And that's what we found exactly. Like sometimes it was just too hard to want to improve it. And so there's a few other steps that we did when we were just totally resisting, like, no, I'm not going, I don't want to feel better right now. I want to be mad. And what can we do? Because I'm sure you guys understand how that feels too. It's only funny right now because we're not mad at each other. Okay. So, Paul, what would you do in the situation where we've got spirits within you, your spirit's partially missing, two pieces will not be able to come back anytime soon, managing each other's minds? What would you do to resolve it?
So one of the things that we always want to work on first is healing yourself, starting with the spirit. And so why isn't your spirit welcome back? Well, there could be multiple reasons, but a lot of times it's going to be not welcome there because of a rebellious spirit, somebody else's spirit, or because of maybe a really strong energy, or because your spirit may actually be kind of like captured and taken to a dark place that it doesn't know how to get out of. And so you'll have to request for some assistance to get your spirit out of that location. And you have to be in a good space to welcome your spirit back at that time. And so if your spirit's not welcome back in you, find out why. And if it's because maybe there's some control anchor energy, go through those steps and remove those control anchors. And that'll work for like if your spirit is in somebody else as well. So maybe your spirit, you put in that person that you're fighting with. And so those steps will help you to bring your spirit back.
The control energy steps?
Yeah.
Conflict resolution.
That's
enough barking.
The control anchor energies. And so after you go through that, see if that's an issue.
Or they just like go into the whole control section.
Yeah.
Whole control category is going to help you out there.
Mm-hmm. And so after you go through some of that stuff, see where your spirit's at that point, and maybe your spirit's back in you. But like I said, let's say you decided to, a portion of your spirit decided to break ties and say, I'm done with it, and go off maybe into heaven or some other place. And then just make sure that your atmosphere is just positive again, and welcome it back. And so if it is in a dark place, then just ask for some angels to make sure that a mission is sent out, like a recovery team is sent out to retrieve your spirit.
Well, we need to figure out who all was in you.
Yeah.
So when we were doing this for my mother a week ago, or less than a week ago, when she contacted me in the middle of the night because she was having a terrible coughing attack, we found two mortal spirits in her. And her body was literally trying to get rid of it, like literally trying to cough it out, like, get out of me, get out of me, get out of me. And so that's what we were working on. It took us a good 45 minutes to get those two mortal spirits to depart.
It requires some subconscious communication when it's not connected to an energy. Mm-hmm. So communicate subconsciously to that person that has their spirit within you, and say, hey, this is just not right. You're not following the plan that God has laid down for us. And honestly, you wouldn't want me doing it to you. And so if I am doing that to you, I apologize, go through some steps to make atonements for that, and then invite your spirit to exit. And
there's a lot to do, I think, that when it comes, and it's really all in the control section. Mm-hmm. So this is just a summary. This is not the solution. This is a summary.
This is getting your spirit back to a healthy position.
So if you find, and this is really important for moms out there, if your children are having a hard time, and you muscle test that your spirit is in 3 pieces, 1 in each child, or 6 pieces if you have 5 kids or whatever. And so you have a little bit in you and a little bit in each of your kids. And that the purpose is that, you want to help them to succeed in life. You want to help them with their decisions. You want to help them with their trials. You want to be there,
You
and
wanna-
possibly with your spouse too.
You want to make sure that they succeed, and you're going to do it in a controlling manner, basically.
Well, it doesn't feel like that though.
It doesn't feel like that, but that's
That's what
actually
it
what's
is.
taking place.
That's what it is, but it doesn't feel like that. What it feels like is it feels like you're trying to help, right? You're trying to assist them in, like I said, kind of trying to avoid unnecessary pain and to be a little bit more successful in some of the things that we can help them avoid. And so the problem is, if your spirit's not 100% in your body, you're not going to be able to consciously help your children. And
Well, I mean, you're not going to do it as well as you otherwise would be able to.
you're going to be tired. You're going to be sick. You're going to possibly be headachy. You're going to be just miserable in all your own ways. You're going to be more emotional, more depressed. You're going to be more susceptible to attacks.
Your spirit offers you energy, and without the spirit in there or dark spirit within you, your energy is going to be drained.
And with your spirit in your child, the problem is just like how how we're talking, if he had a couple of spirits within him, they can be rebellious spirits and mortal spirits. And so the rebellious spirits are any of the spirits that are not on God's side. But as a mortal spirit, they're going to be testing a little bit different. So that means somebody's still alive. So when I say mortal spirit, that's not disembodied. That is me controlling him. It's putting a piece in pieces. So let's say he moved to the other side of the country with the military, and I only got to see him twice a year for a week. And I don't know, I'm afraid that he's going to get lonely and cheat, or I'm missing him and I want him to come back, or I want him to quit the job and say, hey, let's just live in a trailer. I don't care. We don't need the money. I need you. And so I've actually told him that many times before. We don't need the income when he was working overseas. I'd rather have him than have the income. And so that piece of my spirit within him is unfortunately going to hurt him. So when you do that with your children, you don't realize it. You really think you're trying to help because you care about them so much and you love them so much, but it actually ends up hurting them. It actually ends up making it harder for them to succeed in life because, once again, they're going to be tired. They're going to be depressed. They're not going to have the energy to be able to accomplish their studies, to be as, I have to say, when I'm talking about like consciousness, when I'm talking about communication, I can definitely tell you that when my spirit's not 100% in my body, I'm scatterbrained. And in fact, if a lot of you guys came to the class that I did, a bonus class I did 2 Saturdays ago, like the first one, I was a mess. I was so scattered. And there was a particular energy that was being sent at me at that exact time that I was struggling with. And it was messing with my spirit, and it was making it really hard for me to concentrate on a discussion that was hard in the first place. And so this is exactly what happens when we have somebody either splitting up our spirit or jumping in, or, because a lot of times if another spirit jumps in, another mortal spirit jumps in, it's going to push some of that person out because they're going to feel controlled. And so anyhow, this is where the control anchors really do come into place, because that's where it's going to be kind of getting you back in the right spots, retrieving all those pieces of you, and also saying no thank you to other people who have their spirits that are within you, and kind of getting everything back in the proper working order. So that's really, really, really critical and really, really important. So like I said, that's in control anchors under the control category. And then check in to see if you do have any rebellious spirits, and are they contracted, or are they like, what else is affecting you? What else is happening to you? So,
So we look for and test for everything on the consult forum to figure it out. And they go into each section on the website and test for specific things, so you know where to start, right?
These are comments.
Yeah, in the books are the web pages listed as chapters. Yes.
Yeah, essentially. You'll see when we get the manual completed and sent out. Yes, like the self-sabotage and the compounds of charts are still their own books. So when we do have that manual published, they will still be their own. It'll be separate.
Yeah.
They will all still be separate books.
So for the whole program, it'll end up being 4 total books.
Yeah. And that's just because the manual's in two books. You don't buy them as 2 books, but they would come as 2 books. Excuse me. And the reason why the compounds and the self-sabotage are separate is because of how important those topics are to be kept separate and to be able to kind of refer to them completely separately. And quite frankly, the book the manual would end up being over 1,000 pages if we didn't divide them up a little bit as well. Even though some people have said, can't we just have them all in one book? It would be harder to flip back and forth. I mean, there's always that possibility we could put the compounds and charts, because at least it's not another 300 pages like the sabotage book is. Okay. So Brianna was asking, do you basically go through that whole form? I wouldn't. I would not. That's what I'm saying. Wouldn't. But that's a lot to go through every single time there's a problem. But making sure that you're doing that initial consult form so that you have a like what I would do is I would pull it up. Let's say that you're having some specific problem. Let's say that you're having some serious dizziness and some headaches and you're absolutely miserable. I would pull up my consult form that's already done, and I would just be like, so how many different things are causing my dizziness or my vertigo? You know, how many different factors play into. I mean, you can say underlying causes, but we really want to do everything that has any component at all, because we want to knock it out completely. And let's say you find 5, maybe you find 10, and then you can just go through the form that's already put together, because it's going to be a whole lot faster than putting together a form when you're in a bad space.
And you can ask if it's on that chart currently, and if not, then maybe
then go through the program.
Yeah, you can ask if it's within the program.
And then you really want to listen to intuition, because that's really where I found like my mother's coughing attack, that she said she was like, I'm drowning. I am not going to survive this coughing attack. And that's where I kind of just listened inward, like, what should I test right now? Because the compound's going to take too long. The compound is assisting the body in the healing, but like, what is causing her body to cough so intense? And so that was when I just immediately was like, is there something inside of her her body's trying to push out? And that's where I immediately was led to other mortal spirits that were within her. And so you can really use a lot of intuition. So if you're saying, I'm having horrible vertigo, you can say, how much of this is interconnected with the current family dynamic that is happening in my life? And if it's 100% that, then we know we need to focus on that. And then we can say, okay, so do I have destructive energy? Do I have control energies? Have I created any dark energies over this? Do I have anything new? Because if this is a new thing that popped up, there's something new that was created. So most likely it's a new contract, a new dark energy, a new something that somebody else is residing. And you can always muscle test, do I have any contracted, so let's say it's vertigo. You can, because I think that's inner ear, right? You can check to see, do I have any contracted rebellious spirits residing within my inner ear? And if the answer is yes, how many? Okay, I've got 2, 3, 4, however many there are. And then what you can then do is go through the energies and see, okay, which ones, because if they're contracted, as most of you guys know, we can go ahead and show you this on the program. When they're contracted, you have the contract, the rebellious spirit, the curse, and the energy in the spirit, mind, body, and energy fields. It all has to be cleared at the same time. If it is not all cleared together, it doesn't get better, unfortunately. Because a new spirit will be, so let's say you just cast out the contract rebellious spirit that's residing within your inner ear, and it could just be a portion of that rebellious spirit, right? It doesn't have to even be their whole rebellious spirit, but a portion of them is residing in your inner ear. If you cast them out, it'll only be about 5 minutes before a new one is contracted to you, because your contract is still there, your energy is still there, the curse is still there. All you did was got rid of the rebellious spirit, and he's not the one causing all the problem. So he's a part of it, but you've only gotten like 1/8 of the problem. So that's really what I would do. Like, the more and more familiar you get with this, and what I would recommend is, to everybody who is listening, is to come each week to these classes with your questions, saying, okay, I'm having these horrible coughing attacks that aren't going away, or I can't seem to sleep at night, or I've got vertigo. And if you're comfortable discussing it here in an open format, we can discuss it in an open format. If you want to talk to us one-on-one individually and do a session, we would love to help you get past some of the big stuff that is making it too hard for you to really move forward. So troubleshooting it on your own when you're unfamiliar with what to do, it takes practice. It takes a lot of practice. You're going to probably do a lot of, I don't know, a lot of unnecessary steps possibly, or just a lot of cleanup because there's so much cleanup still that needs to be done. That's why I recommend that if you're in a good space, do your preparatory steps. Do as many energy releases as you possibly can that are on your chart that needs to be done. And that's why we want to make sure our chart has everything. So we want to make sure that we are going through all of the different components. So, okay, Trudy, most modalities have a physical action that activates intention to clear and heal. How many of these mechanisms do you use? I've seen you use the stroke down, the governing meridian, and the body code. What is your understanding about activation and intention? Do you feel that there's a lot of questions here. Do you feel that there's any programming behind the physical action, or whether it's just a physical way to request the intelligent force of faith to go to work? Do you think faithful intention is enough? I'm just curious to know your experience and understanding with it. That's a lot of questions to answer.
Yeah, so let me actually kind of break this down a little bit. So,
and can I jump in really quick? I think it was Trudy who had mentioned about who had sent a private request. So yeah, Trudy. So if you want to kind of stand when we're no longer recording, we would happily kind of talk to you a little bit more about some of the private request question that you sent through. Okay, go ahead.
So as far as like the physical portions, we do only a little bit. Like as an example, we have some physical steps that we take in the Neura technique, the hands-on Neura technique.
Not all of them are necessary.
Yeah.
It all depends on how thorough you're being.
And so there's another thing that we do, what we call the hooks, hooks. Cooks. Sorry, the Cook's hookup, which helps to reset the meridian flow. And so one thing about that, though,
and then the tapping.
Yeah,
because that's also a hands-on.
Yeah, and the tapping. So about the Cook's hookups. Sorry. There's going to be a reason why your meridian isn't flowing properly. And so usually with that Cook's hookup, it's oftentimes just going to be a temporary fix. So you have to look at why it's not functioning first and remove those causes. And that's usually going to be maybe in the form of a physical block or an emotional block. And so like if it's a physical block, we do have in the preparatory steps some energies that you can buy in to remove those physical blocks. And emotional blocks are also in the preparatory steps under the walls. And so you can remove those walls. We've found that for the most part, if we remove those things, your meridian's going to flow properly. And so physical.
I'm actually thinking along the lines of the programming behind the physical action. And because I know that the terminology used in different programs is sometimes it's hard to keep up on. Because there are so many different terminologies used in so many different programs that understanding how it was taught to you and how it carries over is kind of a part of my question here. However, my understanding of what you're saying is going to be your thought pattern. A lot of people feel, so we have the mortal laws and we have dark laws and we have
like the core beliefs.
Right, and we have how the curses interfere. So that's something that if you aren't familiar, Trudy, is going to be understanding the dark energies. And if you don't understand our dark energies, here's why this is important, is that Heavenly Father teaches us line upon line. Right, so you're going to learn the basics, and a lot of the different modalities that most people are comfortable with or familiar with are your basics. They're your first few steps on the ladder. But Heavenly Father has taught us the next step on the ladder. So it's going to be a lot more intense. It's definitely not going to be completed once you come to us and you're like, wait, why do I still have the no will to live dark energy? I've already released all of that. There's a much bigger picture at play that that has been revealed to us. It's kind of like we're finally ready as mortals for that next step of understanding. And that's kind of where we're kind of pushing you into a little bit more. So that intention and that, you know, that method that Dr. Nelson uses in Body Code, it's just not necessary when you are doing it in the context of all the details that we are involving.
Yeah, your intention really can be powerful. Another example of that is that when we do proxy, we don't actually state the person's name anymore. It's like we just think it and it's done. So if I wanted to do proxy with, let's just say, Brianna on the call right now, I don't say, my name is Brianna, my name is Brianna. I don't even think it. I have the faith that my spirit's going to make that connection, and I just go with it. And it works every time.
And you're doing it with her spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It tends to work really well. So like Brianna, really when we're talking like step by step, we really try to have it scripted so that all you really need to do is read through the script. And I know it's a lot in each script. Each one is really, really big and really intense.
Yeah. Here's the thing about that though. These energies, that's kind of one of the reasons why I want to go through the document on it. There's those steps. Well, we may not have time. That's okay. We could do it another time. Let's actually answer questions like we are.
All right.
So those energies, they're going to be stored in your spirit, your mind, and your body in energy fields. And they're going to be influenced by your thoughts as well. That's one of the biggest things to change, because the thoughts, it's the memories, the thoughts, and the words that lead towards the formation of those energies. And so shifting that thought pattern, we can release the energies all day long, but shifting the thought pattern is really hard. And that's why you have to take a conscious effort to actually shift the manner in which you are currently living in and experiencing life, thinking a lot more on a positive outlook. And once again, one of the hardest things that a person has to overcome is the idea of loving themselves.
Yeah.
And,
and forgiving yourself.
Yeah. So, so we can focus on releasing the energies, but until we actually shift our thoughts to actually loving ourselves, then these longer steps are actually really needed. And so when we begin going through the self-sabotage steps, what it really focuses on are the thought patterns that are sabotaging our self-love. And so as you begin to love yourself, then you shift it towards loving others. And that's when you can start rushing through some of this other stuff. So Melissa and I, for the most part, we don't go through all those steps.
No, we don't. And that's something that we're actually kind of waiting on enough of you guys to be ready for so that we can teach you some of the shortcuts. But you cannot take the shortcuts in the beginning. It's like learning how to read a book. You cannot go from learning the alphabet to reading a novel. You have to go through all of the steps in between first. And so once you guys are ready for that, those faster steps, you will absolutely be able to. But you have to have all of those other, like all of the atonement steps, all of the reprogramming, all of everything else already like consciously. I think this is like consciously in your mind. And I think that's kind of like how when Christ healed people, that he understood the mechanism of the body. He understood the creation. He understands everything that goes into it, so that when he did those healing processes, that it wasn't just a simple, bam, I just did it with my faith, but I don't know how it happened. Like he actually understood the details. And that's kind of what we're doing here, is we're learning those details.
Yeah. So,
and that's why it's a little bit more complex.
Right. I would guarantee okay, I'll give you an example in the scriptures. So there was one person where he offered healing to his eyes, and the guy was like, that's great. Thank you. It's still kind of blurry though. I'm seeing like half the potential of my vision. And so the Lord's like, oh yes, I know. So
where is this?
It's in the New Testament. And so he doesn't say exactly like that. That's my summary of it. And so basically healing it halfway gave him enough faith to be able to heal the rest of the way, because he wasn't quite ready for the full healing.
Mhm.
And so if Christ just came and offered the full healing, he would walk away kind of taking advantage of it, like thinking maybe a little bit prideful or whatever the case might be. And then he'd have to, but in this case, he had to take the next step and say, you know what? I recognize that this healing comes from this person. It's not coming from me. And so whatever it was that he was struggling with, he had to he had to take an extra step between. And so one more thing about that is that I'll give you another example. Like let's say for one of the people that he healed, like making him walk again. Let's say that person stood up and walked again, and as described in the scriptures, that person has a chance of falling back into that pattern that led him to that situation where he couldn't walk. And so he had to shift his thought pattern every day to make sure that he had the full faith to keep on walking. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that's where this
and then his body still functioned properly and that he could, right? Yeah.
So that's where this whole outlining of the steps come into play at. So when you get to a position where you know, like all of the details that we're providing, then your spirit, your mind and body are all on board, one page, and then they could just go through it like that.
And the more practice, the easier it is.
Yeah.
It really gets fast.
And so you don't have to go through those steps because there's a whole lot of faith involved in it. And so, so it's just a matter of faith at that point.
So Brianna was asking about a flow chart like an emotion code. And I'm not sure how that's any different than the charts that we have. Like, I think that the emotion code chart is almost the same as how our dark energy chart is put together. Or are you referring to the sections within each energy release? Because each one of them are different. Like the confused energies is a different type of release because you're working with the DNA and the RNA, and same with the sensory energies. You're working with traumas and the switches.
So the emotion,
and the veils are completely different than the dark energies.
So the emotion code is pretty basic.
It's just emotions and a grid with A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3,
it's got
4.
like maybe 10 steps in it where you can kind of make sure that the energy has been released. And so, it's a very simple process. But the issue is our spirit is very complicated. Our mind is very complicated. Our body is very complicated.
Everybody is a different.
And so the thing is, we want an easy, simple solution. But if we take an easy, simple solution, we're going to get kind of
easy, simple, and not, a less complete answer.
It's going to,
unfortunately,
it's going to target the easy stuff.
If you just not they're not. See, if we write one up, so I'm not sure the initial form to figure everything out. It's been quite a few years since I did the training for emotion code, so I'm not sure what that. Maybe it's new.
No, I remember.
Is it new?
No, it's in the book.
Is it a 1, 2, 3, 4 step or something?
Generally, yeah.
I just didn't remember it. Anyhow, so if we did it like that, the problem is you're going to miss quite a few steps. So that's really what our initial consultation form is going to help you to make sure you get all those steps. And then the self-sabotage program does that too. We make sure that you get all of those steps step by step and give you the assignments to complete everything else. So we kind of got to unlearn you from other programs and recognize it's a completely different format here.
Yeah. So let me kind of reiterate this. You're taking like about 5 different issues within the emotion code, and you're comparing it to like 10,000 issues within the spirit code.
So that's going to be harder to kind of simplify there in that one.
Yeah.
So really when it comes to like the troubleshooting, so let's say, Brianna, let's say that you're working on yourself, right? And you're saying, okay, I've got 6 different things that are influencing my, my symptoms. And you recognize one is within a dynamic that is at home. So whether that is a spirit that is within your presence, or it is a mortal spirit in your home or a conflict that is happening, that's going to be one. And that could be feeding all of them. Okay. And so we really need to take a step back. We need to recognize this is not a simple, quick fix. We want it to be thorough. We want it to be complete. We want you to actually walk away with a solution, but it's going to take time. And like we said, aligning with that opposition is going to actually create your result so much better than resisting it, thinking, oh, I'm going to avoid all of the different problems. So aligning with it, recognizing, okay, what's happening is happening. The choices that my family is making, those are their choices, and I love them no matter what. And so how do I take care of myself? How do I keep in a safe space? And what exactly is influencing me right now from staying in a good, healthy space? So that is when, like, if you go into the energies, and you see, okay, I've got a rogue energy, a sleep energy, a dark energy, and a spiritual disconnection. You're going to want to knock them each out one at a time.
Let me go take care of this stuff.
Well, I can.
Sorry about that.
Hey. Okay. So if you come in here and you're testing that, let's say despair, okay? Let's say despair is the one that is influencing you. Then going through each of these steps, we really have tried to make it a step-by-step format so that everything is in here. And kind of like what we said was that some of these are going to be kind of like your go-to energies. Some of these are going to be your, you know what I'm kind of thinking, like your repetitive energies, because it is, you know, you're still alive. Like, you created these in the first place due to the trials and the traumas in your life. So you're going to quite possibly recreate them again if you're not completely out of that thought pattern. So if that, and that's what we were kind of saying before, is if the conflict still resides within the family, or if the conflict still resides at church or between you and one of your children, then the energy is going to be recreated. And so it's going to be different, though. Let's say that you remove the despair energy and the despair dark energy. You go through the curse, the contract, the energy locations, the reformation of your thought patterns, the toxins, the compound, and the atonement steps, and you've done it all. Then, and the reason why we have it in that chart, and we have it in the templates as well, is to make sure that it's totally thorough. And if we just kind of gave you like a step-by-step flow chart that just said, you know, remove the connections, remove the curse, remove the energy, remove the, or go through the atonement steps, do the reprogramming, put up the wall. It's a godly wall. Do the toxins, do the compound, do the tapping, and do the last atonement step. Then what happens is that a lot of other programs have taught you that you can simply just say, I release the despair energy, I release the curse, I accept the atonement, I choose to reprogram my mind to a healthier thought pattern. You know, do you guys kind of see what I'm saying? I invite in the appropriate compound for my own healing, I invite in those toxins, and then you want to go on to the next one. And this is something that we have had to kind of teach the people that we are working with, is that this is not about quickly getting through it as fast as possible. This is about being thorough, and this is about seeing a result, about actually progressing to become more like Heavenly Father. So learning those steps are critical. We can't just release the curse without going through what the curse looks like, because what happened is when...
Yeah, there were thought processes that created the curse in the first place.
Right.
So you have to reverse engineer that. It's
basically that you are choosing to go against Heavenly Father's plan. So when you go against Heavenly Father's plan, like the No Will to Live energy, then you are now contracted to Satan's plan. So when we remove Satan's curse, Satan's law that he has contracted you to, into this energy, into the rebellious spirit, we want to help the rebellious spirit, for one. We also would like to remove that law thoroughly. And a lot of times we have that feeling of, well, if I just ask Heavenly Father, he'll do it. You will recognize he's not going to pedal your bicycle for you forever. He is not going to clean up your problems forever. He is teaching you. We are here for a reason. And that's where you want to ask yourself, Am I truly committed to my own progression, to my own personal development, and to truly becoming more like God? Was that what I still want? Do I really want to still live with Heavenly Father in the celestial kingdom? Or am I satisfied with one of the lower degrees of glory? And am I satisfied with a different calling and with a different purpose to my existence? And if so, then you can absolutely align yourself with what your ultimate goal is. However, if we are here training. We are here training to become more like Him. So we're going to need to learn how to troubleshoot. And ideally, I want you guys to be able to troubleshoot these on your own so that you still go through the curse removal in the proper way. So let's say you come across an energy that is not in our program, a dark energy, okay? Any of the energies, because all of the different categories are just as important. But specifically what I'm thinking of is a dark energy. And you don't know what the curse looks like, as opposed to just asking Heavenly Father to clean it up, ask Him what it looks like. Ask Him how He desires us to clean this up. What are the most appropriate steps to go through? And we've actually gone through that when we've done the specifically designed dark energies that we have in the advanced section. All the different questions that we can ask to be able to resolve this. And so
it's like doing spiritual detective work.
it is. I've actually said that before, that it feels like we're Sherlock Holmes. And this is a part of our training. This is so incredibly important for us. Yeah, I love that. That's really good, Trudy. So the possibilities, and I'm just going to read to you guys some of the comments here for Trudy. That's right. It makes sense. The possibilities for what might be interfering with your body, mind, and spirit are endless. I found that you have to expand your understanding with further knowledge like you are sharing, and then open up your mind with the help of the Spirit and ask good questions and trust your intuition. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You can be more effective in helping yourself and others heal. And I kind of feel like I'm doing spiritual detective work. I love that. And then Brianna, I'm talking about how to find each thing before you get into the sections within each dark energy or toxin. Is that in the initial example, the initial consult form? Where do we go to figure that out? I'm not sure what you mean. Do you know what that means?
Not exactly, but if you want to unmute yourself, Brianna, and
explain, that would be great. Sorry, dear.
Okay. Yeah, because like me, I get in there, I look at it, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there's like so many things that I could ask or muscle test for. And I just need like a visual example, and I find myself having to look at your example of your consult form just to know what to muscle test for before I even get into each of the energies or, everything. That's where I get lost, is at the very beginning before I even.
So have you done initial consult form?
I've been trying.
No, that's okay. Like, this isn't a judgment. This is just kind of curious where you are right now. So when you do tests to say, hey, what is causing this symptom that I have? And let's say that you're finding it's in the energy section. Is this where you're kind of getting lost?
No, before that. Just before.
Okay. So you're not sure where to start. Like, what do I ask in the first place?
For the initial consult form, you said that you don't do the initial every single time. You do an appointment form after that, but how do you know if you're missing something? Like you said, if you don't get it all, it's not going to work. So it's like, it's just me feeling like, okay, I don't know if I'm getting everything, and do I need to redo it every time because there's always something more popping up.
Have you ever gone through any of the sabotage steps yet?
I have not.
Okay, I would recommend that. That would be a great way to kind of get your feet wet, start going through the steps, start going through the visualization, start going through the cleanup work. Because you probably have a lot of cleanup work that still needs to be done in the preparatory steps. Technically, you're going to need to most likely do everything in the preparatory steps. We rarely test somebody, unless they've been doing energy work for a long time, who doesn't need all of these. And even somebody who's done, like we were just working with somebody who body code for like a long, long time, and they still had self-destructive tools and mind subconscious suggestions, and they still needed more shielding, and they still needed to go through pretty much everything that is in the preparatory steps. So if I were you, I would just literally start knocking them out one by one. And you could do everything in the preparatory steps in about an hour and a half, I would think, or an hour. You think? Well, maybe not
If
the
you
walls.
if you want to kind of take it slow and learn as you go instead
It'll
of
take
just
longer.
repeating word for word, and actually focus on what it is that you're doing. It may take a few hours.
Yeah, I would think the walls are the ones that take the most time. Everything else is scripted. The walls, you actually have to actually go through some visuals on your own. So we've had some people the walls take some time. But
Like if you're like, say like your mom, she wakes up in the middle of the night, she's coughing her guts out. She can't, it's hard to focus when you're there.
yeah.
Try to figure out how do I help myself? I can't think straight.
And sometimes that's where it helps to have a partner, having somebody who's doing this work with you. And I know that that's not possible for everybody, but I do find a lot of value in having either a friend in the program or having a family member who is also learning the work. But if not, we can turn to one another, and we can always reach out to one another for help. And there is a certain amount that the angels will help you in the worst. Like it's like they'll help you enough so that you can help yourself the rest of the way. Does that make sense? So that in a coughing attack, like, I'm drowning, I'm dying, what do I do?
Yeah. So another thing is start with the basics first. Okay. So starting with the basics, that's in the preparatory steps. So go through those. And then from there, let's say as you progress, then you have some certain issue that comes up. Go back to the spirit and check to see if the spirit's happy. Check to see if it's in one piece and if there's any wounds. Okay, that's the first thing that you want to do is make sure that the spirit's happy
and healthy. And when we say happy, we don't necessarily mean giddy and jumping and dancing. We're talking healthy and living your purpose and feeling safe in your body and all the, like, your spirit's in all the right places. That's what I mean by happy.
Yeah, so
it's kind of a body code term that he used a lot.
Yeah. So making sure that the spirit's happy, a lot of it's going to be found within the preparatory steps, healing the spirit, the self-destructive tools, this kind of stuff here on the left.
Yeah.
And so making sure that your spirit's happy, then once it's happy, also make sure that it's, with that,
safe.
Also make sure that it's cleared.
Pretty much everything in here is important.
All right.
And then
I just feel like I need to like make a list of, like, so I'm so visual. I like, you guys have been doing this for a while, and she'll be like, oh, it's probably such and such or such and such or such and such. But me, I'm so new at it still that I'm still just kind of overwhelmed with the amount of possibilities that it could be. Yeah. And I could be like trying to figure it out for hours.
Right. So that's where we want to take you back again. That's where you start at, is making sure that your spirit's happy and going through those preparatory steps. And
that's on the consult form, right?
Yeah.
Like at the beginning.
And I'm actually pulling it up right now. I'm just not letting you guys see because I have all of our clients' names listed on the same page. So I'm pulling up the consult form, and I'll show it to you. This is the downloadable form. So when you do this, this grid right here is going to be all of your energies, everything in the advanced section, everything in the dark energies, the control energies, just all of those different components of everything that needs to be done. It's kind of like your huge, I need the neuro technique, I need the self-sabotage steps, I need, I need to do the pathogens treatment, the toxins treatment, whatever. Everything can go in this grid, and you can make this grid twice as big if you need to make it twice as big. And then on this page, this is going to be finding out, like, what are your callings and your titles. If your vibrations are really low, you can keep track of how your vibrations are progressing. And I can always tell that if I'm not feeling good and my vibrations are low, I always want to check on my spirit. So everything is going to have a sign. right? So if you test and your vibrations are low, your frequency is off, and your spiritual subconscious level is low, then we're like, oh, what's going on? Is my spirit in a bad place right now? Because it shouldn't be super low. And then checking to see if your spirit's in your body, how many pieces your heart's in, checking for any wounds, because that's going to influence your health significantly when you have spiritual wounds. That's what your energetic wounds are, is those spiritual wounds, or a wound in, of course, your energy fields. And then we have your governing meridian flow, because that's going to be so that you don't need to do this. So as long as your governing meridian flow is flowing properly, you don't need to do this.
Well, that was actually just for the magnifying of intention.
I know.
So.
But we had found that it just wasn't necessary. As long as that flow was open, we found that it wasn't necessary.
Well, like when we were working with you before, you were like, okay, what are all of your symptoms? When we were telling you, but then, you know, what are the energies related to symptoms? Is that when you're doing muscle testing for every single one?
That's what we did when we did the form for your family member.
Yeah.
I actually went through everything on the chart, everything in the program, and I tested everything. And I just wrote down everything that needed to be done. And so granted, more can be added as more trials come. So let's say that particular family member ends up being in a really bad space in their life right now. You could always check to see if a new one has been created, and you can add one or two more to the list if it's necessary. Otherwise, it could just be reinforcing some of the old ones. And then that's going to kind of tell you which ones are active, which ones are the most active in life based upon his current patterns, his current thoughts, his current trials, what he's choosing to do in his life. So in here, like it's asking, these are all of your preparatory steps, going through all of these, just checking to see, do you have them? And if so, then you know you need to do your preparatory steps. So when we fill it out, and if I get yes to all of these, we go through everything in the preparatory steps, we clear it all, and then we put next to it done. And that's why we work as a team. Otherwise, our initial appointment, we would get the testing done and just a couple of things done, but we wouldn't be able to get all of it done. And sometimes we can't work as a team. Yesterday, I was working on somebody with our initial consult form, and I wasn't able to work as a team, so I was only able to do certain things. And that was fine. Like, we still got enough done to benefit. And so these are just all of the important things to help you to understand what this is. Kind of like your chart in my mind. This is your chart to see what needs to be done. This is your to-do list. That's how I see this whole initial consult. It's your to-do list. And then the homework assignments, these are just going to be your tips, helping you out with what else you can do. Going through the affirmations, which is going to be a part of your sabotage program, how to clear your space. And if you've seen on our other appointment forms, you can also see that this one is a lot smaller. This one doesn't have nearly as many questions. We're just checking on the spirit, checking to see if there's been any sort of attack, and then writing down and documenting everything that we did. So let's say we did the deceived dark energy and the despair dark energy and a 2D energy. We're going to write those down so that we don't lose track. Because that's how I am too. I need to see what's been done, what needs to be done. I need to have a list. I can't have it just disorganized and cluttered all over the place. And so that's what these charts are. They're organizing it for you and helping you to know what needs to be done. And then in this one for an assignment, we also have the dream shield and the, inviting and healing energy from the earth as well. So, when we're at the very top of the initial consult form, this grid is going to be all of your big work that needs to be done. And this list is going to be all of your preparatory steps that need to be done. So usually we work on these pages first. I usually work on the pathogens after doing a couple of big things. I usually wait and do the really big issues. And then we come up here, and typically once we get started working on the grid, the control energies and the dark energies usually get bumped to the beginning, because those are going to be the most important. And so your control energies are going to be the ones where you're getting your spirit back into your body excuse me, and removing outside sources of other people who are in your space or who are in your body. So those control energies do all of that. And if you go through and find out which control energies are affecting you, it's going to be easier, because like what you're saying, you already know what to do when something is wrong. So if you are just coming through and you're just saying, okay, I've got my grid together, I've got my consult form together, and we can work on that together. So I've had a lot of people come to us and say, can you just help us get started? And that's totally fine. We can absolutely do that. Just let us know if that's going to help you. So if you go through and you've got these horrible symptoms and they're making you absolutely miserable, and if you still have the symptoms we know that you had last week, Brianna, we would want to see like what exactly is influencing it. And my guess, and this is just off the top of my head from my experience, as opposed to going through and helping you to know what you should do for yourself, my guess is going to be that we've got some contracted spirits that are going to be in those particular locations causing your symptoms. I'm also guessing your spirit's not 100% in your body, because your symptoms are absolutely leading me to think that that is where you get really tired, you get really just kind of miserable, unable to truly function. And so it's usually spirit. It's usually mainly spirit. But we can also check to see, since it's brand new, and it wasn't like a chronic thing that's been happening forever, it's most likely a spirit issue. Now, if it was chronic, I would say let's check into your diet as well. Let's check to see if there is anything in your environment that is toxic, or if it is a relationship situation. And so that's where, like, we've really tried to make it so that if you go through the sabotage steps, if you fill out your initial consult form and you start plugging away your to-do list, you're going to get it all. It's just a matter of when you're in a bad shape, like if you are coughing your lungs out, or if you are so sick you can't get out of bed, you're going to need somebody else's help. And that's when we kind of just say, let's reach out to each other, let's help each other, and use that as a service opportunity so that you can actually start getting some progress, kind of get past that lump that's holding you back, because that can really be hard. And I think that that's what's beautiful about God's plan, is that he has helped us to learn how to help take care of each other. And then Trudy just mentioned, I love how you invite in the good things that you need. So yeah, we had talked about that previously when we were working on all of the compounds. We at first, like, I remember it was funny when we were putting it together, and we hadn't put together how to invite in like the compound energy and the toxin treatment and everything. Is that we were saying, I command the energy of such and such into my body. And I just kept going, that doesn't feel like agency. That doesn't feel like we're respecting. Like, why are we commanding something beautiful? We only want to command the dark stuff, right? And Paul's like, you know what? Let's do invite and absorb. And that was like perfect. It was invite and absorb. So those are like the main things. I invite this energy in, and I choose to absorb it into my body. That way it's all a choice, and it's all respectful of other agency. But anyhow, like, I understand, Brianna, I really do. I think that sometimes when life feels overwhelming, it feels more overwhelming to jump right in. It feels really overwhelming to be able to overcome everything. So thank you for saying that it looks easy. Brianna, saying that, sometimes it feels like your head is spinning. And I get it. Like, usually it's a lot to kind of grasp and take in, and that's why we want everybody to go at their own pace. I learned this the hard way when we were teaching the self-sabotage program. I was wanting to do a weekly class where we all got together every single week and we did the steps together. And then I would give everybody the assignments where they would do an energy release, they would test their food, they would work on their toxins, and just kind of get those charts together and start plugging away the treatments. And I noticed after a few steps, I was losing more and more people. And like we would start off with like eight students or whatever, because each group we would only have a smaller group of people each time that we went through the round. And by like step 5, we would only have 1 or 2 showing up, and I'm going, what's going on? And then by step 8 or 9, we had nobody showing up. And at first, like, it was really hard for me to understand why, because I was sitting there going, This is hard for me too. And this is when we were doing a muscle testing class, the spirit code class, and the sabotage class every single week, in addition to being parents and having clients and writing up the books and working on the program. And I was like, it's hard for me to set aside this time. Why is nobody else putting forth any sort of commitment back to us? You know, is it because it's free? And those were all the questions I kept asking. Is it free? Were my mentors right that people only invest what they put money into? And then I realized what it was. It was the commitment. This is not the same for everybody. For us, we understand all these different steps, and I could dedicate 1 or 2 evenings after work to plugging away 1 or 2 of the dark energies and kind of going through the foods and, you know, going to the kitchen and recognizing, oh, my body doesn't like that. It looks like I'm going to have to do something else. Like, you don't even have to test all the foods. You would just muscle test what you're feeling would be best for you and what foods that you're wondering that you should stay away from. And it's a little bit easier. You know, you don't necessarily have to test everything that's in your kitchen. And so I was kind of seeing it as this is actually pretty simple. But as I was starting to talk to more and more people, I was realizing that it's a big deal when you have your kids. Just like I was saying, you've got kids, you've got work, you've got this program to learn, and you're trying to do the release. It's a lot. And so it seems as though what most people needed was about 1 step a month, as opposed to 1 step a week, which would take us a year, which was really difficult to, exactly. Thank you, Brianna. Like, it's hard to reprogram your whole way of thinking, your relationships in your family. And what most people were finding was by the time they hit like step 3 or 4 is that they're recognizing, I have a lot of changes to make in my life. And so they start trying to make those changes, and the resistance hits. All the resistance with your family, like the family is going, why are you all of a sudden wanting to, you know, change the way we eat? Why are you all of a sudden wanting to change the way that we fight as a family? Like, what is going on, Mom? And before you know it, there's so much resistance that it really sometimes was taking closer to, you know, maybe a month for 1 step or a month for 2 steps, as opposed for, you know, a step every single week. And so it was a great lesson for me to understand that this program is really best as a self-study. That we have some people who, oh my goodness, we had somebody blow through the whole thing and learned everything in like 2 months. She did all of the steps, all of the energy releases, learned everything, and even saw the results in her life in just like 2 months. And then she was like, okay, now what? And I'm going, oh, wait a minute, seriously? It's been 2 months. How did you do all of that? How did you complete so much? I'm so excited. Yeah, we've got a lot we're working on. You want to help us complete what we're working on? That would be fantastic. And then we really have like a wide range of what people have time for, of what they're ready for, of what they're experiencing, of all the different changes. Some people have a lot of changes that need to happen at home in order to be able to start seeing some change, some shifts. So if I was doing this program, say 7 or 8 years ago, I wouldn't be able to get past the second self-sabotage step. I can tell you that right now, because my marriage was making it impossible for me to create a healthier dynamic. And I was trying to help him to recreate this healthier relationship and this healthier pattern. Like I was trying so hard, but it was me. And he didn't want the change. You know, he wanted to be able to just kind of continue in the choices that he was making. And he thought that everything I said sounded great, but he wasn't willing to incorporate any of it. And so it can be really, really difficult when you recognize that there is so much that has to happen. And especially if you're experiencing like a lot of illness. And that was another issue, was some people had more illness than others. So if one person has like 6 energies that had to be released with the first step, it was too much to do in that first week versus, and let's say that they were really sick, so they're dealing with everything and they're still trying to do their consult form and they're like, I cannot learn it all fast enough. And then other people who only had to do 1 or 2 with each step. And they'd already done a consult form and they already had a basic understanding. And so It just turned out to be easier to make it a self-study so that everybody can kind of go at it at their own pace. So Brianna, just start taking some of those steps. So I really recommend hanging out on the left side of the program. And what I mean is don't jump into the energy section unless you're filling out your grid. Hang out in the training, watch some more videos, read. And in fact, if you've watched a bunch of our videos, because I know you've come to a lot of our classes, read some of those different steps, like the clearing your space and the healing your spirit and the relationship conflict, and start inputting it in your life and seeing those results, like little by little. If you go through the preparatory steps, I can promise you this is going to get easier, because you're not going to have those sabotages pulling you back. You're not going to have those spirits in your space pulling you back. You're going to be able to actually start making some headway. And then if you need help with your appointment form or help with your testing, let us know. And then from there, you want to get into some of the control energies and maybe some of the self-sabotage. And if you feel ready, go into the dark energies. But just start plugging away your to-do list. And you're going to learn as you go. And this is something that, kind of what we were saying before, I want to kind of unteach you the way that other programs have taught you. I don't want you to understand the whole program before you do it. I want you to jump in and do it, and that's how you learn the program. So that's very different. I know that was not how I learned in some of the other programs, that you had to learn it first. That's not how this is, and I think that's probably how some people get really confused. So go in, and like I said, hang out on that top left of the program where it talks about the training and the initial forms, and just kind of get familiar enough that you can fill it out. And absolutely, when I'm filling out the initial consult form right here with the grid, I do go through, I will click on every single one of these. Not all of the all of the categories. Not all the releases, just all the categories. So I'll come to this grid, and I'll muscle test everything on this grid. And the reason why it's not in a 1, 2, 3, 4 format is because you kind of got to test them all. And some of them are hidden. Some of them, you got to test them all.
It would be best to.
Yeah.
And in some cases, you may even need to test through an angel, because like the deceived
and hidden are going to be deceived here, and hidden right here are going to be, those are going to be harder ones to catch.
At least one more than control can be an issue. And the denial can also be an issue. So sometimes your subconscious isn't really willing to give those up yet.
And if you haven't cleared your space and done the self-destructive tools, mind subconscious suggestions, conflict lenses, and all of that, you're going to have a harder time testing these. So if you're doing the testing, you got to do those preparatory steps so that you can get accurate answers. And so you don't need to click on each of these until you're actually doing the release. But you will need to go here to test every single one and write them all down. And we've found that, having a double screen really helps. We got a cheap trash computer screen to plug in for our laptops that we can do a double screen, so that it's a little bit easier. So, and the more that you understand, the more that you'll see the fear energies, you don't need to click on that one, because that one is just one step. There's not multiple choices on a grid.
Yeah. Same with rogue and sleep.
Same with rogue, same with sleep, same with translucent.
Spiritual disconnections.
Right. Spiritual disconnections, you just need to know how many you have. Confused energies and sensory energies, I usually just test for how many, if you have any at all. I don't even usually click on those when I'm testing somebody. I just test to see if they have them or how many. And then the veil energies, same thing, because those are self-created veils. These are not God veils. These are self-created veils that you feel ashamed. I usually just test to see how many. So I usually only click on dark energies, trauma energies, and control energies. And all the rest of them, I just test as to whether or not it's an issue. And then I will test to see if you need the hands-on Neura or the core belief shift. And technically the full release is best done in the self-sabotage program. Same with the core belief shift, I actually think too. But then I also go into the advanced section when I'm filling out a grid, and I test all of these. And I test, do you have the 2D energy? How many? Dark twins, spiritual trauma? Do you have Lucifer's children? Do you have an alternate spirit? Do you have false memories? What percentage do you have Lucifer in your mind? Do you have any dark laws? Alternate personalities, multiple? Do you need any advanced shields? Like these, you don't necessarily need to test. You can test your brain function if you want. So, and then I put all of that in my grid so that that first initial appointment form is going to be everything that I just showed you. You're going to list them all right here. So this would be dark energies. You can write each one. You can put in all the control energies. You can put in, and I would list more than just dark energies for the dark and the control. And yeah, for the dark and the control, you actually want to know exactly which ones. But I would test, let's see, I have 23 veils. I have all the trauma energies. I would test and say I have 345 spiritual disconnections. Anyhow, and fill out that whole grid. You know, I have the dark twin. I have the 2D. How many times? Like, I don't know, 8 times. That's kind of a common number that we tend to get. And so that this way, everything is taken care of. And you will have a list. And the reason why the list would be important if you're doing this for yourself, let's say we got constipation. And let's say we have sleep issues, relationship. So the reason why, yeah, that's not supposed to be 2 words. The reason why I kind of want to cover in this section, I like covering physical, emotional, and spiritual issues. So that would be keep having spiritual attacks. That's important to know, okay? That's something you want to document. I keep having spiritual attacks. I have troubles in my relationship. Kids gone astray. I've got extreme fatigue. So these are going to be important for you to recognize where you're starting. Because in a year, you can look back on this grid and you can say, oh, I haven't been constipated in a long time. I used to be constipated my whole life. Wow. That is so cool. And you can, you know, what I usually do is I do this, done. You know, sleep issues, done. I'm sleeping great. Oh my goodness. I used to have such horrible sleep issues. I was a mess. So I had such fear that, in fact, I would hear noises at night where it sounded like somebody kept banging on the front door. And I was told it was PTSD. And I would hear like loud. Okay. It was intense, and it would jolt me out of bed, and I'd be like, I would go check all the doors. I would check everything, and nobody was ever there. But I heard it almost every single night. And it was like serious PTSD. And whenever I got married to him and he would move around at night, I would lay there and not sleep because I would be afraid that I woke him up. And my ex-husband used to punish me if I woke him up. And if I wake him, I could wake him up 10 times during the night, and he would just be like, oh, I had a hard time sleeping last night. I'd be like, oh, you did? I'm sorry. Was that me? And he'd be like, it's okay, honey. I love you. Were you okay? Did you not sleep well? I could tell you were up a lot. And I'm going, you're not mad? He's like, why would I be mad? I'm like, wow. I have to really train my body that it's okay to sleep. Like, it's okay to wiggle at night. It's okay to get up and pee during the night. It's okay to be sleepless. It's okay. I'm not going to have a punishment or a consequence. So my sleep issues, and then I had severe, sleep deprivation. I had severe sleep deprivation.
You were sleeping in stages 1 and maybe 2. Yeah.
Right. So I was never sleeping deep. I was always staying in 1, maybe 2. And I used to have some severe punishments whenever I would sleep. My ex-husband wouldn't sleep more than about 4 to 5 hours a night, maybe 6 hours at the very most. And so if I slept longer than him, I would once again get punished. And I'm an 8 to 10 hour sleeper. Like, I love my sleep. And so anyhow, there was some severe punishments when anyhow, most nights when I was married to my first husband, I was only given about 2 hours of sleep. And at that, then kind of like I said, I slept really light because if I wiggled, I got in big trouble. So it was a very bad situation. And that's about as much as I really would like to kind of get into that, because I would like to send him loving energy and not negative energy. So the point of this is I sleep generally in stage 3, 4, and all the way up to stage 10 now, which, yes, you can actually sleep above a stage 4, anywhere from a 5 to a 10, when your body is really capable of receiving the rest that it needs. And that's amazing. Doesn't it feel good when you sleep really deep like that? I wake up feeling amazing when I get up to stage 10.
Typically, it still stays in 3 or 4, but
yeah,
if you work on communicating with your mind and your body to go into those deeper states, it can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so what I love is being able to go back to my chart, just like we were just looking at, and be able to say, oh, not only do I not have sleep issues, but I'm amazing at sleep. I'm a pro at sleeping. I could compete, in sleep. And I don't have any relationship issues anymore. I don't have any spiritual attacks. My kids are doing amazing. And I don't have extreme fatigue anymore. Like, all of these, they're not influencing me anymore. I'm good. I still have congestion. But a lot of that, we've already learned, is external influences. It has a lot to do with the pollutions in the air. And that's not really something that we can change. Like, we can work on allergies, but we can only do so because allergies are going to be based upon God's creations. Pollutions are not a part of God's creations. So, okay, I know that we've kind of gone a little bit of astray. I do want to just kind of touch a quick little base on what Brianna had asked about, like, second coming preparations. And then if there's any more questions, because I know that Trudy had a few questions.
Shall we go ahead and cut it off for now, and we could chat a little bit
Does anybody
afterwards?
here ever actually get turned off if you see one of our recorded videos to be 3 hours? Do you guys prefer them to be 2 hours? Like, do you ever see a long video and just not watch it?
I prefer them like 1.5 hours.
It does take like a whole day to download it whenever it's a really long video. Well, let me just kind of give you like a really quickie here. I really believe, and we'll talk about Trudy once we're done recording. Okay, sound good? I really believe when it comes to preparation and things that we need to be ready for. We talked a little bit about this in an extra class that I held last weekend. But something that I kind of want you guys to be aware of is, one, you guys already know, most of you guys already know to have storage, having food storage, water storage. But Heavenly Father is going to tell you what you need. And it's amazing to me how different it is from person to person, because I was told recently that I needed to write a letter to each of my kids and put them in scriptures and set them by the front door in case that we are separated. And a little bit more intense than that, and you guys may have seen me talk about that in a previous video. We have also been told that we needed a better vehicle, that we needed an SUV for our long-term survival and for being able to haul our stuff and our family.
Actually, let me tell you about this. Like, we've had issues with our older vehicle, and so we're kind of wondering, well, we could use it.
And we kind of thought, what's the point? Because, once the part that we're talking about, cars are going to be useless at a certain point anyway. So what's the point in putting forth any money when that's why we're buying it?
But what I'm saying now is that, like, we've had issues with the vehicle since we've purchased a new one. The issues with the old vehicle, we're kind of seeing pop up more now, and it's like I'm kind of hesitant to even drive it now.
So what's interesting, so this is my minivan, and I've had this minivan for a very long time, and there's a lot of negative connections to the minivan, but like I said, that is a part of my healing, a part of my old relationship. And so the minivan has become something that I have been very grateful for, because God paid it off for me. It was so cool. Like, seriously, I paid off all of my debt except for my van after my divorce. And I remember praying to Heavenly Father and saying, this is $8,000 left on this debt. This is going to take me a long time to get out of this debt. Can you help me? And no joke, you guys, that day, that very day that I had that prayer, we had a nasty, nasty hailstorm. We're talking so bad, hail actually went through the roof, and multiple stones went all the way through the roof. And we were scared to death they were going to come through the ceiling and get us too. Most of them, by the time they went through the roof and hit the insulation, they didn't make it much further. But it was intense, and it destroyed my van. It didn't destroy it. Let's put it this way. The insurance paid it off for me. So they totaled out my vehicle. It gave us new windows. Well, the totaled amount was like $9,500. So I paid off the car with that amount of money, and I used the extra $1,500 to get new windows because it had been destroyed, and to fix the axle. I think my axle was messed up or something like that, and I think I ended up putting like $100 of my own money into fixing it. I just left all the dents and the rest of the damage. None of that really mattered to me, and my van got paid off. But about a year ago, I kept getting this feeling that we needed a better vehicle, that we needed one that could actually tow our trailer, and one that we could depend on for off-road traveling. And I just kept feeling like we needed that. And I told Heavenly Father, I went, listen, you're going to have to make this so blunt in my face that I cannot deny it, because seriously, that's a very big expense right now, and we don't have that kind of money. And so like the oil started leaking, and it was not an easy oil leak. It was up in the engine. It was like over $1,000 to fix it, and we did not fix it yet.
Close to it.
Yeah, we haven't fixed it yet. And so we just kind of put it off, thinking we can live with an oil leak. We'll just keep filling up the oil, right? It's doable. We can survive. And I told Heavenly Father, I'm like, yeah, let's, we're gonna keep it for now. But once again, if this is really your will, you're gonna have to practically slap me in the face with a reason why to replace this. And it has been on my mind for a year, literally a year. And then all of a sudden last month, everything went wrong on the minivan. And my favorite one was the door. One of the automatic doors, it went to close and it just stopped halfway. And we couldn't get it to close. It wouldn't budge. And it like there was no car accident. There was no clink. There was nothing that broke inside. Nothing shifted. It just stopped. And it was cemented into place. It would not move, worth a budge. And so it wasn't the motor. Even though the motor was broken, it wasn't the motor, because if it was the motor, I was able to shut off the automatic and try and do it manual, and it still wouldn't work. Nothing could get this door to close. And we took it to like 3 or 4 dealers, or 3 or 4 repair places and a dealer, and everybody went, I've never seen anything like this. I have no idea. They said it's like it's been cemented into place, and I don't see anything wrong with it at all. And that's what the one guy said. He was like, there's nothing broken. I don't see anything broken. He goes, I'd have to take the whole sucker apart just to troubleshoot. And he's like, you're looking at just $600 seeing me take the whole thing apart, with the best case scenario of just one, easy, simple, cheap mechanism being broken. And so then we took it to another person, and we just kept getting like I don't know what to do with this. And they all said, well, we could order this part and replace it, but I have no idea if that's why it's broken. And so I went to Paul and I just said, here's the deal. Here's what I told Heavenly Father. And I'm pretty sure it's because we need a different vehicle. And so he said, Melissa, did the angels break our door? And we really took this to Heavenly Father. And yeah, that was it. The angels broke our door. And then the window stopped working. And so we went ahead and we found an SUV with off-road tires for exactly the amount of money that we had available to spend. And which wasn't much. It was a very small, very, very small amount of money for a vehicle. And it was perfect, absolutely perfect for us. Like I have no complaints with that vehicle other than how much it costs to fill up the gas. And literally like a week later, my engine on my van is smoking really bad. And that's what he's talking about. He's like, I don't think we can even take this out anymore. And we found out like all of the cylinders are misfiring. Every single one is misfiring, and that it's not roadworthy. And so I just found that to be a really interesting way that Heavenly Father worked. So when it comes to preparation, what I would say is really listen and see what Heavenly Father has to say. And one of the things that we have put high on our list is having this manual complete, so that you guys have this in paperback form. Making sure that we have paper copies of everything that we need, making sure that we have, in fact, every time I go to the store, and I was talking to one of you guys who will probably be watching the replay later, and she was saying that every time she's been going to the store this last week, she's been hearing, why don't you get more water? You know, pick up a few extra cans of food this time. And it was really cool hearing that, because this is exactly what I want all of us to kind of recognize, that this is the Spirit helping you to be ready, helping you to be prepared for the end. And so that's actually what we do this every single time we go to the grocery store. Paul's like, is there anything else that Heavenly Father thinks we need? And a lot of times it's like, we need a few more packages of bars of soap. So we have lots of extra laundry soap, dish soap, hair soap, and body soap. And just yesterday, one of the things that we were prompted to get was some extra duct tape. So what kind of popped into our mind is, in the case that there was any sort of nuclear attack, that we could duct tape up all of the windows and all the openings. Or biological attack, that we could seal up all of the windows and all of the doors, so that you don't have those pollutions coming through the oxygen for a little while. So anyhow, I don't know. I'm not sure what else to say when it comes to preparatory, other than really being ready for the trauma that's going to happen. And I think that by really learning how to align with the opposition, and remember, we're not going to avoid it. No matter how much energy work you do, no matter how much you are communicating with your body, your spirit, and your mind, we're not going to avoid this opposition. What we want to do is, how can we learn from it? So Paul and I, every single time something happens, we always look and say, okay, what is Heavenly Father trying to teach us with this? Because I know that I am not perfect, and I know that I need a lot more education. And so the more teachable that you are, and the more that you're ready to listen to Heavenly Father and let Him teach you, the more that you're going to be able to progress forward. And I have plenty more like along the spirit world that we could definitely talk about. But just recognizing that this is all about progression, that we're all in a different step. Some people are at the beginning of their progression. Some people are towards the end. Some people have a far way to go still, and that's okay. Like, Heavenly Father has a plan for everybody and has a path for everybody. It's not a race. And this is absolutely an opportunity for all of us to learn how to love one another a little bit more. So with those words, we would like to go ahead and finish this recording, and we will stay on live for some of the other questions that people have for you. And we would just like to share our love with you.
All right.
All right.
Have a great and wonderful week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.